they said there was going to be global freezing by the 80s and the 60s. Club of Rome, the UN. We need global taxes to manipulate the different human outputs to cause warming to stop the freezing. And that was more reasonable because we know there's 10,000-year cycles, and we were pretty much set by about this time to start going into a cold cycle. They were growing grapes 3,000 years ago in Scotland and making wine. They had been doing that a long time. So it's been actually cooling, a lot of studies show, in the long term, about thousands of years. Not, oh, it was hotter in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and now it's going to get cooler. Not the mini cycles within the larger cycles. But the sun is the main driver of climate. I don't care if the UN passes resolutions saying it doesn't affect climate. It's the main driver, and the only thing that's constant is change. So first it's freezing, global cooling. Then by the late 80s, it's global warming, because we were in a little warming uptick in the larger cycle. And then when it started cooling again in the last 15 years, first the increase in temperature slowed, then it stopped. Now it's been declining for about a decade. That's numbers across the world on average. But there's some record high temps, some record low temps, always in all the little micro climates around the world. So now they just say, you know what, we can't lose if we say climate change. And with all the huge news I've got today, I open up with that because Vladimir Putin has come out in a speech and in a Politburo statement that we have linked on Infowars.com, red linked, because this is such a big deal. Putin, anthropogenic climate change is a geostrategic weapon. Globalists want to undermine Russia's thriving energy sector and every other country's energy sector or private energy sector not controlled by the globalist. And Putin 100% hits the nail on the head. No other major political leader will do this. Russia had been even going along with the fraud, but now they're breaking with the globalist on every front. And that's why it's good to have division and national sovereignty, because it creates natural firewalls to tyranny. You don't want one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them and in the darkness basically bind them, because then there's no checks and balances, there's nowhere to flee, there's no one to say no, there's no opposition, there's no diversity, there's total centralization. So we'll see. We're going to call Leanne right now. I meant to tell you guys to do that and see if she's going to be able to make it in. A lot of folks are not here, and that's because a lot of roads are closed, and it is dangerous getting here. So if folks choose not to come in, that's fine. The folks are here to run the critical infrastructure, and I'm obviously here to broadcast and host today regardless. But there is climate change taking place right now. You can read Texas settlers' accounts in the 1830s of rivers hundreds of feet out of their banks, and then how 2 years later it wouldn't rain more than a couple times. That's what Texas weather does. That's why the west of Texas is a arid desert. The central area is a mix of scrub brush and live oaks, and the east resembles a jungle in many areas with 200-foot pine trees. This is the diversity of the climate. That's why we have such diverse climate and topography, is because Texas is so large and is affected by weather from the north, weather from the south, weather from the Gulf, weather from the east. But they're on the news this morning. I was watching television this morning while I was exercising, saying, local leaders are saying this is why we need to move forward with initiatives to tackle climate change. Today's rain. It's like voodoo, like telling the villagers, do what the witch doctor says or the sun won't come back tomorrow. Ted Cruz, of course, came out during the debate and said climate change is not science, it is religion. And speaking of that, I want to play a few minutes of the disgusting questions from the debate. We played a lot of these yesterday, but this is the twisted questions, the attack dog questions, the clearly biased questions that were given by the three so-called journalistic panelists that were quizzing and interrogating the larger panel of Republican presidential first-tier adult table candidates, not the other kids' table candidates that had their earlier debate as well. And then, budget buster. Senate passes debt and spending hike in dead of night. When don't they? China warns U.S. against minor incidents that could spark war, close quote. I mentioned this, but here it is. Putin, man-made climate change is a geostrategic weapon against industrialized nations, absolutely. That is just some of what is coming up today. More on the political correctness front. Student accused of promoting gang culture for wearing American flag T-shirt. I've actually seen this flag sold in stores. I don't really like the California flag that much, but with the bear being an American flag, it looks pretty cool. And that has been banned. And this is happening all over the country. You say, oh, that's just a few extreme examples. No, it's not. I probably have 15 of these every day. Not wearing blackface this Halloween, this is not a joke, folks. North Carolina State worries you may be Hitler. And they actually ask, if you are playing any type of white character or any type of white, just everything's offensive, then are you Hitler? Do you have anything to do with Hitler? This is when Melissa Harris Perry said, if you say someone's a hard worker, you are disparaging black slaves. They will appropriate all language and make it illegal for you to communicate. This is checkmate. This is Ingsoc. This is George Orwell's top warning. This is the real deal. Let's go to this compilation of the pieces. Go ahead and just go to Senator Rand Paul in a filibuster trying to stop the passage in the Senate of what already passed the House last night. 144-page bill amounts to $558 million in spending per page. Budget buster. Senate passes debt and spending hike in the dead of the night. Democrats and Republicans working together. And this new language allows them to basically just keep expanding it without having to have these public votes for the next 2 years. So extremely draconian, very Weimar Republic, very Zimbabwe hyperinflation-ish. That's the flavor of where this is going and the smell of it as well. Obama wins. U.S. debt limit budget truce through end of presidency. And again, that's about a year and a half, and then it doesn't come back up for another 6 months. So that's 2 years roughly. U.S. President Obama early Friday won congressional passage of legislation that lifted the threat of default on government debt through the end of his presidency and the budget blueprint, easing strict spending caps through September 2017. Easing the spending caps on our hemorrhaging country. It'll go well above $20 trillion now. But don't worry, we have that clip somewhere where Obama says, raising the debt limit doesn't raise the debt limit. And he sits there with a straight face like saying, sticking your finger in a light socket doesn't hurt. Or hammering your thumb with a hammer doesn't hurt. Or sticking your hand in a wood chipper feels good. It's good for you. And if you built your business, you didn't build it. And you can keep your doctor with Obamacare. And it's free as well. And there are no penalties and there are no death panels, even though it's all admitted now. So this country is being maneuvered towards total bankruptcy by design. You see the dependency, you see the dumbing down, you see the entitled, arrogant masses of collectivists and their globalist masters. What a disgusting conflagration. I didn't know they stacked manure that high, to quote a Marine Corps drill sergeant. Let's go ahead and play one of the clips of Senator Paul trying to battle this hemorrhaging, and of course the media acting like he had 5 heads.
Quorum call.
Without objection. Senator from Kentucky.
I rise today in opposition to raising the debt ceiling. I rise in particular in opposition to raising the debt ceiling without getting any sort of spending reform or budgetary reform in return. In fact, it will be completely the opposite. We will be raising the debt ceiling in an unlimited fashion we will be giving President Obama a free pass to borrow as much money as he can borrow in the last year of his office. No limit, no dollar limit. Here you go, President Obama, spend what you want. We do this while also exceeding what are called budget caps. We've been trying to have spending restraint in Washington. It hasn't worked very well, but at least there are some numbers that government is not supposed to exceed. These include spending caps for military spending as well as domestic spending. When I first arrived in 2010, I was part of a movement called the Tea Party movement. We came into prominence, and I was elected primarily because I was concerned about the debt. Worried about the debt that we were leaving to our kids and our grandkids, worrying that we were destroying the very fabric of the country with debt. We came here in 2010 and we negotiated and negotiated. And the president said, President Obama said, I won't negotiate with you. He says, I won't negotiate with a gun to my head. The media all said, you just always have to raise the debt ceiling. It's irresponsible to use that as leverage to get reform. But you know what? We did get reform. The conservatives put forward something called cut, cap, and balance. It was passed overwhelmingly in the House, blocked in the Senate, but ultimately there was something passed called sequestration, which put caps on both military and domestic spending. And it did slow down the rate of growth of government for a little while. This is the problem with Congress. Congress will occasionally do something in the right direction, and then they take one step forward and two steps back.
That's right. Because we're run by banks that are tax exempt offshore and who want to maneuver us into bankruptcy. That's why they'll pay 10 times or more what the strike fighter's worth. And it turns out an F-15 is better by every outside group that's looked at it and cost, wait for it, about 100 times less. We'll be right back. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Alex Jones. Senator Rand Paul, where he was filibustering us, not just upping the debt limit for the upteenth time, but this time giving the president basically total discretion over what he does with the money and bypassing Congress. This is all part of the TPP. It's all part of the NAU. It's all part of globalism. Notice Obamacare is just a blank check to the establishment and can be changed however they want. That's what global legislation is like now, is just dictatorial rubber stamps with incredible leeway so the establishment can just do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, however it wants. That is the bottom line. And Senator Paul challenged the establishment and said, why don't you go outside the Beltway and actually see what people think of you? Well, they know what people think of them. A 9% approval rating for this body. So we say the American people are dumb. We say the American people are bad. But really, if you look at the common sense of the American people, they're pretty smart. The vast majority are smarter and aren't engaged in criminal activity like the people that run Congress. The problem is a good 35, 40% of people are now totally on the government dole and are dependent. And so even if they don't like what's happening, they've been made to be servile. Let's go to the clip.
It goes on and on. The frustration of the American people is that as it goes on and on, nothing ever changes. The establishment in Washington is completely and utterly tone deaf to the way America feels about this. All you got to do is drive outside the Beltway and enter into America and ask the first person you meet at a supermarket, do you think we should keep borrowing more money? I don't care what party they are in. I defy you to drive outside the Beltway, stop at a gas station, stop at a supermarket, and ask the first person, do you think we should increase the debt and increase spending at the same time? Do you think we should increase the debt? Do you think we should increase the debt ceiling with an unspecified amount? Ask any parent of a college-age kid whether we should give them a credit card with no limits. Your child comes to you and has $2,000 on the credit card. What do? You tell them they have to watch their spending. Do you give them more money? No. Should we give Congress more money? Hell no. Congress is bad with money. They're not good with money. Do not trust them with any more money. It's a mistake, a huge mistake, to give this body any more money.
We are going the way of Mexico, of the Weimar Republic in Germany, of Zimbabwe in the last decade. That is where we are going as a culture and as a society, and we're being wrecked by design. I know I talk a lot about that, but it's so important to understand that Obamacare was written by the big insurance companies to increase prices, to restrict care, and to give them liability protection so they can deny you care. The Vaccine Damage Fund and other systems set up in the 80s are meant to give Big Pharma liability protection. The new legislation they passed yesterday that's supposedly, dealing with cybersecurity gives total liability protection to big corporations to spy on you and transfer that data to any government or corporate group they wish. It's a blank check to commit classical organized crime, enslavement, usurpation against the people. CISA, security bill, passes Senate with, quote, privacy flaws unfixed. That's what Wired magazine calls it, privacy flaws. But even the individuals on the committee admit it is coffin nails to the law protecting Americans from Big Brother snooping. But they're only retroactively trying to pass laws now to legalize what they've been doing illegally. Congress has now announced hearings on the Stingray systems that the IRS has gotten to set up an antenna in their offices or on the street and to pick up every phone call being made within 3 to 5 mile area in all directions, and to have your caller ID, your name, to be able to tune right in and listen to every word you say, hook it up to computers, record the phone calls, record the data, record the phone trees. Totally illegal. And I bet a year after they have these hearings that are coming up in Congress on the IRS on Stingray, that they'll pass a law legalizing it. That's what they do. They have a hearing saying it's terrible, and then they legalize it retroactively. By the way, how do you legalize stuff that violates the Bill of Rights, the Constitution? Those are the big laws. You have to overturn those. And those laws don't give us our rights, as the Declaration of Independence points out, and as the Ninth Amendment points out to the Bill of Rights itself. They only point out what is already there, and the Ninth Amendment goes on to say there are more rights not enumerated here. And just as the Declaration of Independence states that we have a right and a duty when government becomes oppressive to throw it off, we have that right today. Now, speaking of maneuvering us towards disaster, maneuvering us towards collapse, a lot of our crew isn't here today, and I've told the crew, if you don't want to come in, please don't come in if you don't have a safe route into Austin, Texas, because of record in the last decade flooding. Record flooding a few months ago, now record flooding again today. Tornadoes, a big tornado hit San Marcos, damaged buildings, tossed 18-wheelers. In fact, I had an article that showed a photo of that 18-wheeler up on top of a building, on top of a Holiday Inn Express. Bridges collapsing, buildings being knocked over. And I'm not talking about trailers. I'm talking about big stone buildings. Very serious tornadoes hitting, because Tornado Alley ends in San Antonio and runs all the way up into Illinois. And the worst area statistically isn't in Kansas, even though that's a bad area for tornadoes. The worst area in the country is Oklahoma, statistically. And by the way, we've had a record low in the last decade of hurricanes, and the last 6 years a record low in tornadoes, but it doesn't stop the media from acting like it's, quote, man-made climate change, and we're all basically dead if we don't do what? Pass initiatives that where the UN and the IMF and the World Bank set taxes on all human activity. Remember the Associated Press yesterday with the headline, "The Department of Energy and other agencies are saying pumpkins should not be basically used during the holidays for Halloween or pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving because pumpkins put off CO2 as well as oxygen, and CO2, carbon dioxide that other plants breathe, and then they put off oxygen, but they also release carbon dioxide, is evil." And so the Energy Department smashes them in a stunt saying we need to restrict pumpkins. And see, once you do that, you can restrict all other crops, trees, you name it. In fact, the UN has proposed chopping down trees and burying them so that they basically mummify and become petrified forest so that the, quote, carbon isn't released. I'm not joking. This is not satire if you just tuned in. I'm not joking. We do have a satire piece we shot on it that should be airing coming up in the 4th hour today that was extremely, I kind of had a wild hair to follow the Energy Department's orders and go after pumpkins. So we went to a grocery store and basically freaked out on everybody and just said, look at the evil, look at what this store is doing, selling these demonic terrorists. And we began attacking the pumpkins. So the media will grab it and say I'm crazy. That's the whole point. We're illustrating absurdity, as Rush Limbaugh's always said, by being absurd. This is what they say to do. We're only doing what the Energy Department said. Everyone knows that plants are evil. See, folks say that's crazy. These people are nuts. No, they're not. If they can teach your kid when they're 5 how to give oral sex and put transgender bathrooms in an elementary school, they can do anything. If they can forcibly inoculate your children, they can do anything. If they can say 2 + 2 = 5 or 5 + 5 + 5 isn't 15 in Common Core and fail kids that do proper math, they can do anything. If they can ban from Texas to California, from Michigan to Florida, children wearing American flags of any types, belt buckles, California shirts that have it, they can do anything. It's a cult. If Melissa Harris Perry can say, if using the word hard worker is meant to put down black slaves, then they can ban any words. You see, they know what they're doing. Student accused of promoting gang culture for wearing American flag shirt. By the way, this is sold by the state of California. I actually bought, I knew this looked familiar when I saw this morning. This Mikhail Thalen article. I actually bought this shirt for one of my daughters. She actually has this shirt that I bought at an airport. Now, I'll assure you, when I bought, the image says California with a star, and then the bear has the American flag projected on it as a cutout. It's a variant of the California flag. I thought it was a cute shirt. You know, I've got to admit, I did this as part of wanting her to be in a gang. Because really, that flag did symbolize free market, right to self-defense, rugged individualism. I won't let it be expropriated to mean war and tyranny and world government. We're taking the flag back. And the system's telling us, you can't use any symbol unless when we say it's okay, we're the ones allowed to talk, we're the ones allowed to use symbols. Everything else is a thought crime. Not wearing blackface this Halloween in State, North Carolina State, worries you may be Hitler. It was put out by the school president, certified by the faculty, by the dean, saying basically any costume could be seen as evil. You must only wear approved costumes that we say you can wear. No geisha girls, no cowboys. Don't be a rapper. That might hurt someone's feelings. They said, if you're white, if your costume is a white person and you happen to be white, someone might think you're Hitler because Hitler was white. You cannot make this up. Are you Hitler? Do you have anything to do with Hitler? Close quote. You thought they were joking around 4 years ago when they said, don't bring paper bags, brown paper bags to work, and don't say we're going on a government event where we're having a seminar at this hotel. We will provide brown bag lunches. That just means a sandwich, apple, bag of chips, a bottle of water. Everybody knows what a brown bag lunch means. Or they say, we will not be providing food. This was the examples they gave. Brown bag it. Brown bagging never had anything to do with black people or anybody else, and they admit it didn't. They just said someone might be offended. They just invent all this imaginary stuff to be offended by while all of our freedoms are being taken. We're all being poisoned. We're all being dumbed down. All our kids are being targeted. And they're trying to turn us into Tower of Babel where we all just fight with each other. And I know I've said that thousands of times, but man, this is making me angry. But meanwhile, the war on humanity continues, shutting down our economy. First, it was freezing. Ice age is coming. We got to have world government to save us. Then it was global warming. Then it's climate change, period. Vladimir Putin has come out and said anthropogenic climate change is a geostrategic weapon. Kurt Nemo, Infowars.com. This needs to get out there big time because Russia's breaking with the globalists on every front. They didn't go along with carbon taxes before and said they weren't sure it was real. Now they're saying, look, it's meant to shut down all major industrial economies not controlled by the IMF and World Bank. To have a major world leader who's made the world bipolar again, not unipolar in its power, to have Putin come out and say exactly what it is a devastating blow against the New World Order. This is cause for celebration. And Putin just went up another notch in my view, because you know I don't trust him and know what he was part of and all the rest of it. The point is, he's telling the truth. He says they want to break up our families. They want to destroy our cultures. They want to get rid of our sovereignty. They want to override us. They want to sabotage the human condition. This is a genetic takeover. I mean, the Russians do listen to this show. I was told by the head of RT America some stuff that just sounds so unbelievable. But who would have thought Matt Drudge would show up here? You know, who would think top generals, you know, the former head of special forces has been on, 2 different heads of special forces. I mean, we have the big listeners, and yes, the Russian government listens to the show. Then I was told that by RT International, one of their main heads, I'll leave it at that, in a Skype interview, where I was told it was a Skype interview, and it wasn't a Skype interview. Once they cut to me, they started interrogating me in a big table with a bunch of top Russians at it asking me questions. And then they had been threatened to never have me back on RT by the U.S. government. They were basically asking me who I was, who I worked for, how I could do certain things. And they were asking me if I was a U.S. government agent or who I worked for. And I said, I work for liberty. But that's the level I'm at where, like a James Bond movie, it's not RT, it's a big table in a government building with a bunch of guys staring at me. And I see them on TV sometimes, and it's like Russian, you know, leaders. Putin listens to the show, is the point. And I'm not giving us all the credit. But when the signal goes out that this is an anti-human shutdown program for austerity, it's game over for the New World Order. It's game over. So we have to tell it like it is. It's a plan to kill us. It's a weapon system to selectively cut off the energy. If General Electric, heading the commission, can shut down over 1,000 power plants they're in competition with, they increase your prices and then increase their output because they're exempt from the carbon rules. That is economic warfare 101, but becomes physical warfare when it bankrupts people. And that's what Putin's saying. By the way, it came out in the London Telegraph a few years ago that Assad of Syria was directing his information agency to use the information at Infowars.com to counter claims that they had launched nerve gas attacks. And that, of course, came out in the national news that I was some traitor, that my news was being used by a horrible dictator. Well, later it got confirmed that the nerve gas was launched by Al-Qaeda and Saudi Arabia and connected groups. And so a prophet is not known in their own country is the old biblical saying. I'm not claiming to be some prophet, but I'm here telling the truth, and the world is listening to InfoWars. In fact, that should be our new slogan. The world is listening to InfoWars. We first had the slogan 10 years ago that the truth lives here. Somebody else picked that up. I don't care, because imitation is the greatest form of flattery. And I'm not bragging about InfoWars either. The fact is, though, we tell the truth. We know what we're talking about. We predict a lot of things that end up happening. We have our finger on the zeitgeist. You have your finger on the zeitgeist. You are the leaders of the liberty movement worldwide. The world looks to America. Think about how Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who was in a gulag for 20 years for speaking up against Soviet oppression, once he came out and his secret book that had been smuggled out got published, and he won the Nobel Prize for it. Think about how he was a rock star around the world for what he did until he saw tyranny in America and ran back to Russia and said, I've tried to reform Russia, but now America is falling to the disease that we were under. And so when I talk about the Japanese, the Chinese, the Russians, and others, I mean, Hamid Gul, former head of Pakistani intelligence, won't give anybody interviews. He's been on with us 5 times. He's the guy that ran the war against the Russians in Afghanistan with the CIA. And he comes on the show and concurs with our analysis of al-Qaeda and ISIS being Western run in Syria. These people listen and they come on because they know what I'm talking about is true, because they know as much as I do or more. And they're sick of corporate media that goes along with these frauds. 1 billion people will end up dying in the next decade, according to Lord Monckton's analysis, which is conservative, if they put these basic carbon taxes in. It's a death sentence. So that's why I start hyperventilating when I cover these issues, because they're so big. We're going to go to break. We have a very special V for Vendetta piece that Darren McBreen didn't completely finish, but he's reined in it at home, so I'm going to play it. He goes, no, it's not ready yet. Yes, it is. You can tweak it later if you want. But at the 8 after, we're going to play this new V for Vendetta montage that ties into reality and what's currently happening that Darren McBreen has put together. And then we're going to have Dr. Group in studio with us, and Leanne McAdoo will be breaking down her trip to St. Louis and the leaking. That poor lady, what a commando. First she's at the burning radiation dump. Now she's driving through floods to get here. So the true Wonder Woman, and get that queued up when she joins us. We've got to get our own little tailored Wonder Woman intro for Leanne ready, not just play the intro. We need something really special for her, because all the world is waiting for her and the powers she possesses. I didn't plug anything this hour. Please spread the word about the broadcast, pray for us, and buy the products. 25% off the Liver Shield and Oxy Powder Cleanse at InfoWarsLife.com. That's a big deal. 25% off and a bunch of other specials with free shipping and more at InfoWarsStore.com. Ends after Halloween. Stay with us. Hey, Leanne McAdoo is going to be in the studio. Dr. Group is via Skype. I don't know if Jim Mars is going to be able to be here. We can't get a hold of him, and he's driving down from outside Fort Worth in the countryside to try to join us in studio, and it is like Noah's flood out there. If you go to the Texas radar feed, you can see that much of the state is completely hammered, including Austin, Texas, that is under, again, just biblical level rain, feet of rain coming down every hour. I've got family outside Austin who live near a creek, and the creek did come up into the house a little bit, even though they're above the 100-year floodplain. So the answer, obviously, is to write a bunch of checks to Al Gore and to pay him when I use carbon, and to kill and destroy every pumpkin I can find. And I'm not being sarcastic. If you follow their logic, the Department of Energy did come out and say, do not have pumpkins. Plants are evil as well. All life is evil. You have to understand that, unless it's Caitlyn Jenner, and then that, because Caitlyn Jenner is actually a reanimated corpse and doesn't put off any carbon. So you can kind of see where that's all going. But coming up at the start of the next segment, a really powerful piece that Darren McBreen put together. He also worked with Rob Dew on it, and that is pieces I commissioned. Sometimes Jakari or Jacobson or some of the other great folks like McBreen kind of have their own idea and put something out. Like the Cobra Commander piece that Jakari did that's so good, and the Captain America piece he did that's so good, and a bunch of others that wartime when he did that so good. We ought to air that at the bottom of the next hour. We don't air that but like once a month. It's one of the best ones. But this one I kind of commissioned, and I said, look, I want to dovetail the movie V for Vendetta and show the parallels of a supposed fictional tyranny with what we live under today. And Darren's done a really great job with that, so that is coming up at the start of the next segment. Obviously, a lot of big developments. Paul Ryan got elected a couple days ago as the new Speaker of the House. People say, well, he's terrible. This is a defeat. Why we get rid of Boehner? It's all part of the process. He's going to have to really watch himself now, and his days are numbered politically if he engages in too much of a worship fest with the Democrats, like we just saw with the debt limit being raised and just unlimited spending being handed to Obama and sequestration that they scared so many conservatives with. It sounds like castration. Oh, they're going to shut down our Navy. Sequestration, sequestration. So don't worry now. They're going to have all the sex change funding going on. So in a way, it will be castration. In a way, sequestration being put into function will equal castration, literally, with federal funding of sex changes nestled in to block grant funding to the states. I mean, you can't make this up when they're spending, hundreds of trillions every few years, and when they're have a deficit of 19 trillion, and when we've signed on to 2.2 quadrillion in fake counterfeit, why not go ahead and just turn the printing presses up and run around crazy? Because they're selectively giving the money to insider groups who are vertically integrating the economy in a command and control system. And that'd be bad enough because it's not a level playing field and it's a rigged system. But the people setting it up are eugenicists, social Darwinists, masquerading as liberal trendies who hate humanity's guts and believe they're going to merge the machines and become gods. This is the worst possible perfect storm science fiction freak show movie, but it's not a movie, it's not a novel, it's the real world. That's why it's trillions of times deeper and wider and more complex and more fantastical and more beautiful and more ugly and more magnificent and more sneaky and twisted and outlandish and colorful in endless kaleidoscopes of imagination. It's 7.5 billion people on a planetoid hurtling through space around a standard sun, deep out on the edges of a standard pancake galaxy, staring out into infinity and the great void. And instead, we're told the center of the universe is an ugly weirdo wearing a wig. Caitlyn Jenner, bow and worship now. InfoWars.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. Our government was responsible for the deaths of almost 100,000 people. You really want to know?
Several party members have been murdered, Chief Inspector.
We're interrupting your regularly scheduled program to bring you this terrifying report.
It was almost as if it were a planned implosion. It just pancaked.
Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
New York, very much a city still in chaos. The phones are not working properly. The subway lines are not working properly.
The sky now black with smoke in front of us, just across the Tigris River here. This is shock and awe, Tom, to the population of Baghdad. Shock and awe, indeed.
The people you liberate will witness the honorable and decent spirit of the American military.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
Come on.
Is the U.S. involved with any procuring of weapons, transfer of weapons, buying, selling, anyhow transferring weapons to Turkey out of Libya?
To Turkey? Today we learned that the same group may now be in possession of a deadly cache of American-made firepower, Stinger missiles. They are powerful enough to take down a commercial airliner.
We know the United States arms, trains, and funds ISIS.
I know these people. I'm in contact with them all the time. When you are subverting the power of government, that's a fundamentally dangerous thing to democracy.
What do you think of Edward Snowden?
I think he's a traitor.
I wish I wasn't afraid all the time, but I am.
I'm here to warn people. You keep telling me to shut up. This isn't a game.
Welcome to America, ISIS. This is what we do. Woo!
We got people that have taken your asses out in this building right now. We're armed to the teeth, and we're not scared. You got that, you sons of bitches?
In 2012, your agency was saying, quote, the Salafists, the Muslim Brotherhood, and Al-Qaeda in Iraq are the major forces driving the insurgents in Syria. In 2012, the US was helping coordinate arms transfers to those same groups. And why did you not stop that?
Why didn't you come forward before? What were you waiting for?
Well, for you, Inspector. I needed you. I suddenly had this feeling that everything was connected. We're all part of it. Are we ready for it? The only verdict is vengeance.
From the front lines of the information war.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the rough cut of a piece that Darren McBreen's been working on for a while, tying in so much of what's currently happening with parallels into tyranny, like the fictional world of 10 years ago, V for Vendetta. Hard to believe that film was out 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago. So much big news, obviously. A few days ago, a government surveillance blimp tethered over 100,000 feet in the air crashed. It has really gotten people to wake up to the fact there's a bunch of secret surveillance blimps up there. Because they're on the news going, it's secret, it watches you, just don't worry about it. People will get upset about something like this, but not the admissions of all the other spying. So that's in the news. We've got special reports up on Infowars.com dealing with it. And then going back to reports and films I made 16 years ago, 14 years ago, detailing that every major city already has at least one of these blimps above it. Grabbing all your cell phone data, ground-penetrating radar, using wireless Wi-Fi technology to look through your walls. You name it, this is going on. And the government uses it as the backbone of its super Stingray-type alternative communication system as well. If they decide to hit the internet kill switch and turn off our communications, it will be the high-altitude blimps used by Northcom and DHS to lead the UN globalist takeover domestically. So there's the rest of the story with the Skynet blimps, not just the satellites. And the reason they went with blimps, you can put a lot more on them, have solar panels on the top, keep the blimp up there for some cases years without having it land and servicing it. And it can, again, surveil the public a lot cheaper than putting the payloads in space. It was General Alexander Haig, who owned the company that first started getting government contracts in 1991 to deploy these systems. They were deployed by 98 in a test grid that we know of that was partially declassified. By 2005, they were over every major U.S. city. So, yes, people are calling us, why aren't we talking about the blimp? We wrote the book on the blimps. So I've been covering the blimps. This is just one of them crashing. Yes, they exist. Just like death panels and Obamacare, just like it raising your prices and having fines if you don't get Obamacare. Remember, Drudge complained about the fines, and the news said, he's a lying kook. There are no fines. There are no penalties. And now people are being hit. Businesses last year, the general public this year and next year. Pennsylvania State Police shoot down runaway military blimp. Yeah, there's video of them. It was dragging cable tether along with it, tearing up electrical lines. So the police, there's video, shot it with shotguns. And again, why do you shoot it with shotguns? Well, it was low enough, and the shotgun pellets don't hurt you when they fall back down. If you shoot it with rifle bullets, they can kill somebody. Let's continue here now, shifting gears. Putin, I mentioned this last hour. It's red linked up on Infowars.com, but it really is ultra-massive news. Putin has come out and said man-made climate change is a geostrategic weapon to kill populations and destroy sovereign nations and to selectively shut down corporations not part of the inside global cartel. And the fact that Putin's now talking about the exact reality is a devastating shot across the bow, because Russia obviously already knows all this, but as more and more of this comes out, as Vladimir Putin becomes the Alex Jones of the world, in fact, the only person, I guess, that could get bigger than me in being a conspiracy theorist, that is reading documents, knowing reality, and exposing exactly what's going on, would be a Matt Drudge. But who could dwarf Matt Drudge is Vladimir Putin. So I guess it goes Putin, Matt Drudge, Alex Jones. I'm like the mini-me now. This is really getting weird. This is really getting weird. By the way, I was just told General Hamid Gul, I mentioned earlier, former head of Pakistani intelligence, exposed to him so much here. I wonder why I wanted to get him on the last few months and couldn't get a hold of him. I was told he died on August 15th, so sad news there. Daria happened to see that information. I guess it's on his Wikipedia. So I was unaware of that. That's sad news. It is surreal that Vladimir Putin's a listener. It is surreal that I get plugged in Russian media. It is surreal that, but it's not surreal. I mean, we've got the former head of Special Forces, 3-star general, joining us, former head of Army Intelligence also joining us next week. I mean, this is the type of guest we have. This is who listens. And it's not because they really learn anything here other than our guests. This is just a place they tune into and go, man, this is real news. Because that's what global warming taxes are, is a plan to kill you and your family. There are cancer viruses in the modern vaccines. There are adjuvants meant to brain damage you. I have the white papers. We've republished them. Now, we're going to skip this network break to get more time. Dr. Edward Group joins us to get into a host of issues today. And then Leanne McAdoo is going to join us at the bottom of the hour in studio, because she did the cleanse. Her friend, who's a popular actress here in town, did the cleanse, and they had more dramatic results than I even had. Rob Dew lost 12 pounds in 1 week on the cleanse of just stuff in his intestines. And so Leanne McAdoo's going to come in and talk about it. And there'll be about 5 minutes of infomercialing, but it all ties together. That's how we fund the operation. We're very naked about the fact that we do that maybe once a week, every 2 weeks or so. But Jim Mars should be in studio in the third hour. He was able to make it here with the torrential flooding. But you can see the video with Leanne and her friend. Amazing results of the Liver Shield cleanse. What you can expect when you do it. You can find details and also get 25% off Liver Shield with the Oxy powder at InfoWarsLife.com right now. But that is while supplies last. We ordered a ton of it. We thought to go through the year, because if you've got any left, you got to pay taxes on inventory. We jumped through all the hoops. We're a major target here, so we pay probably more taxes than we should. In fact, that's what our new CPA and lawyers said. They said, you've been paying too many taxes. Whatever. They ever claim we haven't been, even though the tax is fraudulent. We're dealing with the mafia. We'd rather jump through all the hoops and not make tax issues our fight so we can say and do whatever we want on air. Strategically, that's my view. But we're going to run out of this before the year ends. I mean, at current sales rates, and this is a disaster, really, it's going to sell out in about 2 weeks. So they're telling me now, hey, how about you take the sale off so we sell it at regular price and run out by the end of the year, and then we can actually fund our operation. So I don't know if I'm going to pull the special by next week or what I'm going to do. We're trying to get more in. Liver Shield and, of course, the Oxy powder, discounted 25% off, InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. We also have 15% off Ancient Defense Herbal Booster, Brain Force is back in stock, Survival Shield Nation on X2, Super Male Vitality and Female Vitality back in stock. Free shipping and 10% off on the high-quality storable foods at InfoWarsStore.com. We have the new Alexa Pure Pro, next level and gravity-fed filters. See the informational videos and more. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Now, Dr. Group, she's coming up to talk about Liver Shield that you developed, Oxy powder you developed, what it did for her and her friend, side-by-side photos and videos, dramatic results. This is probably one of the most dramatic things statistically we've seen out there. what's lurking in the guts and how it toxifies the body. But you're coming on to talk about how to eliminate Halloween toxins. How about we don't give processed candy to our kids? But a lot of folks obviously aren't going to do that. And using Halloween as a benchmark, we're always toxic in this world. This can be applied, obviously, to just general toxification of the body. Correct, Dr. Grib?
Yeah, this is actually the best time of the year to detoxify your body because your metabolism usually slows down as winter comes in, and you have at the end of October, which is Halloween, where you have all the candy, the processed foods, all of the toxins coming in, the high fructose corn syrup, and then you have November where you have Thanksgiving, and then you have Christmas, and then you have New Year's. So most of the time, most people out there double their intake of sugars, refined sugars. They double their intake of processed food.
I always gain 10 pounds.
They all gain weight because your metabolism is slowing down. So it's actually the perfect timing for you to be having a liver and intestinal cleanse special, because what are the two things that are affected the most? The intestines and the liver for these 3 months. So if there's any time, don't wait until January and New Year's when you make your New Year's resolution and say, now's the time I'm going to clean up for the last 3 months and get rid of the last 10 pounds that I gained. You should at least be focusing on cleansing the liver and the intestines through this period. And if you do that, most likely you won't gain any weight, and you'll keep your liver from having to process all those toxins, and you'll keep your intestinal tract clean from having to deal with all those chemicals and toxins and genetic.
I want to talk about other ways you can do it as well, because you list a whole bunch of things here in this info sheet you sent me. You were kind enough to write up for us, Dr. Group, but going back to a plug here, Liver Shield with the Oxy powder. You developed Liver Shield proprietarily for us. Other folks have done other cleanses that they say were great, say this is hands down annihilates any other cleanse I've ever seen. They've never done cleanses that cause these stones to come flushing out. We're not sure. You can't say technically, we actually know, but we can't say whether it's liver or the gallbladder. But why such explosive results for 98% of people that we've seen?
Well, because everybody's liver is congested and toxic. I mean, they all suffer from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, liver congestion. There's no medical test really that can determine if you have a fatty liver, or if you have fatty congestion in your liver, if you have liver stones. The liver performs over 500 different functions. It fights off infection. It protects the immune system. It neutralizes and processes toxins. It processes all your nutrients. It helps regulate your hormone levels. And so when you look at society today, anybody over the age of 30 or 40 is most likely going to have a toxic liver. And that's why we've tried to figure out and search the globe for the most effective products and herbs that would help melt those stones down and help detoxify the liver of all these chemicals and toxins and help repair the liver. So what everybody should be doing on a regular basis should be liver cleansing and keeping their liver intact. But that was one of the hardest processes we had to go through. It took years to find the right combination of herbs that people can take to help cleanse their liver and reactivate the liver's detoxification pathways and stimulate those. So the liver is functioning over 85%. That's really kind of the number, the goal that we want to get at, because we've evaluated we've had probably close to 300,000 people go through liver cleansing. And what we constantly want to do is look at what's going on. And we haven't even also talked about the fact that the majority of children and adults these days are on some form of prescription medication. And we know that prescription medications also severely damage the liver. And not only that, some recreational drugs damage the liver as well. And one of the most damaging things to the liver is alcohol. And we have the majority of adults that drink alcohol. So really our goal was, we knew that the body self-healing mechanism is really dependent on how clean the liver is. And most people's livers are only functioning at 50%, some 35%, 60%. But we know that we need to get the liver to about 85% or above functionality in order for the whole body self-healing mechanism and immune system to be active. So that's really what our goal is to try to educate people and say, look, everybody needs to be aware that all of the stuff that they're breathing, the chemicals and toxins that are coming into the system through the air, through the water, through the food, all of that has to be processed through the liver and damages the liver. And so we feel it's extremely important not only to keep an intestinal lining, because ultimately all those toxins come in through the intestines and then they go to the liver. So the two—
Well, let's expand on that. They admit all these plasticizers are in so much of the fried foods. So while Michelle Obama says worry about fat, she doesn't say worry about GMO, don't worry about aspartame, don't worry about artificial salts, MSG, don't worry about thousands of different toxic additives, don't worry about MBTA. Don't worry about that. Worry about fat in general. Shifting gears, because I know fat affects the liver in many different metabolic ways. Explain to me, now they're having to admit that, oh my gosh, what you've been saying forever, coconut oil fat, other pure, clean meat fats, whatever the case may be, are essential to brain health and the rest of the body's health. And so much of Alzheimer's is linked now in this cocktail of reasons to people not getting the good fat they need as building blocks in the body. How big of a game changer is it that they're having to come out now and admit that fat is actually good, and instead of demonizing trans fats as they should have, artificial fats, which they claim was the answer to real fats that they first said were bad in the 80s, what's really going on there? And then what do you make of the UN? I mean, I know you're mainly a vegetarian, but you eat some meat. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it that meat itself is bad, or is it that all the toxicity that bioaccumulates is bad? And what's your view of the UN now wanting to tax meat?
Well, first of all, I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat for 12 years.
Okay, good. I thought that from memory. I just want to make sure.
It's not necessarily because I think meat is super bad. It's just that I was having digestive problems myself when I was eating meat, and that's just, it could happen to anybody. The main problem with meat is the same thing that happened with tobacco years ago when the tobacco company started spraying 650 different types of chemicals on the tobacco, which is a natural plant. It's when you take something, and with like what you said with fats, it's like when you take something natural and then you try to create it synthetically with the hydrogenated oils that they did and the trans fats. That's when it becomes bad. When you take something that's naturally grown in nature and slather it with chemicals or genetically modify it or alter it in any way, shape, or form, then it's going to have a bad effect on you. And with the meat, you have, number one, the cattle industry is heavily, they use heavily antibiotic use in the feed. It's all genetically modified feed. So if you convert over and you eat organic meat or organic fish or farm, not farm raised, but any type of natural product, it's going to be a lot better. But if you look at the body and the way that we are, I mean, we really are herbivorous in nature. Number one, we don't have canine teeth to rip and chew flesh, which means that we weren't designed to be meat eaters.
So you're saying we're not omnivores, that we're really herbivores?
Well, what I'm saying is we originally weren't designed that way. We've adapted and evolved over the period of thousands of years. But we don't secrete hydrochloric acid in our mouth like carnivorous animals do. We don't have a pipe-like digestive tract like carnivorous animals do. But we have evolved over a long period of time because we've started eating meat. So I'm not saying that all meat is bad, but it is acidic. It does cause the intestinal lining to become acid. People do not chew the meat until it's a liquid before they swallow it.
That's what my dad says. He says you should eat a little bit of red meat, fish and things like that, but you better chew it to a bloody pulp. That it is. He told me this 30 years ago. He goes, chew your meat or it's carcinogen causing in your colon. And that's really true. And I still gobble down red meat without chewing it properly, which is a death sentence, I guess.
Right. And that goes for anything, really. We should just chew our food till it's a liquid before we swallow it. It just eases up our digestive tract. So what happens is people are not doing that, and people are not going to the bathroom as much as they should. So you have constipation.
So you end up like John Wayne with 45 pounds of undigested meat in your stomach, and that's what Oxy Powder and Liver Shield do. Well, it did it for us, and you've 5-star reviews at InfoWarsLife.com. You flush out your drains, you flush out your radiator, you flush out your fuel lines. It's time to flush out your intestines, InfoWarsLife.com. Leanne's coming in. Dr. Droop joins us. We're talking about cleansing our bodies, and Leanne McAdoo is here. Her and her friend, I guess a month ago, said, hey, we want to do a cleanse, but we had to wait till Liver Shield got back in. So it got back in about a week and a half ago. They did the 6-day cleanse, and there's an informational video that we're going to repost to Infowars.com breaking it all down. That informational video is also at InfoWarsLife.com on the Cleanse Pack page. And you can get 25% off the Liver Shield and the Oxy Powder until next week. I'm going to have to pull the special down because it's so popular, we're going to run out of it. We're going to have to go back to regular price. That's just how the free market works. But if you go to that page and scroll down, you can see the informational video on the stones itself, and we're going to add the video that we produced to that page so that you can see Leanne and her friend and exactly what happened and the results they got. And we're going to go to that video here in just a few minutes showing the results that they got. Dr. Group is our guest, but Leanne McAdoo, you heard us talk about it. You heard us go over it. You yourself and your friend, Emmy, describe basically what happened when you did the cleanse, what the cleanse consisted of.
Well, it was much easier than I thought it was going to be because of the diet that's prepared. As long as you follow those guidelines with all of the food suggestions and drinking lots of water and that apple cider vinegar. I know there was a funny video that I put out where my first taste of that apple cider vinegar, but you really get used to it. Definitely going to be incorporating that into my regular diet, every day because it's just so good for you. But it was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be, other than the flush day. So, but I think that was due to my own sort of trying to mix the, just kind of do my own thing, which I think Dr. Group can kind of break it down as to why that's not appropriate. But well,
Leanne, also, you're going to be back on a really serious issue, just as serious as this or more. Speaking of cleaning our bodies, you went to St. Louis. You're going to be in the last 30 minutes with Rob Dews, hosting the 4th hour today, to talk about the 3 days you spent with Josh Owens outside St. Louis with the leaking, burning, radioactive Manhattan Project landfill.
Right.
Now, by the way, I did not order you to go up there. Let's be clear. You wanted to go. You used to live in St. Louis.
Yeah.
But you're going to be talking about that as well. Give us a little prelude of what you're going to be breaking down.
Yeah, well, I was a little bit disturbed. I had just cleansed myself of that protective layer of toxins. So then I went, and then there was just the leak there with the leachate. And so I just kind of opened myself up for the brand new toxins. But it was, well, you
did a great job. You and Josh did. And by the way, we're going to show for TV viewers, if you're a radio listener, Infowars.com/show, before and after with her and her friend, photos of what happened to them in 1 week. And then also you can see overall what I've been doing in the last few months, doing some cleanses and my waistline going down from a 40 now to a 36. So we do have that video. Do we have B-roll, guys? Yeah, there you go. Let's go ahead and roll some of that. Dr. Group, what is this doing? Dr. Group, I mean, how did you develop Liver Shield, and why is it so effective?
Well, it's so effective because the liver filters about 1.5 quarts of blood every minute. And when the liver has so many it has 500 different functions. So not only does it assist you with weight loss, it assists all the other different types of systems, your neurological system, your digestive system, your endocrine system. Everything pretty much comes from the intestines and the liver. So when I wrote a book years ago, the 10 top secrets to weight loss, my #1 secret to weight loss was liver cleansing, because once the liver is clean and it's working above 85%, then the liver's able to metabolize fat. It's able to regulate your hormone levels. So it's really comes back to the liver being the most vital organ besides the intestinal lining in the body. And that's why the medical profession still doesn't teach doctors about the intestines and the liver, and still doesn't really know too much about it or have any tests that determine that, because they don't know how to properly clean and flush the liver. You know, if you look back at ancient Ayurvedic, you were talking about the good oils earlier, avocado oil, hemp oil, coconut oil. Those are all great, and that's part of the liver cleanse, because what we want to do, how we want to achieve that, is cleanse everything out using the herbs, start breaking down all the liver stones. Most people don't even know that they actually have liver stones. They think stones are only associated with the gallbladder, And people that have their gallbladder taken out, by the way, those people are even more susceptible to fatty liver and liver disease and should do liver cleansing even more often, because that means the liver has to then take over all the work of the gallbladder. It has to produce and store the bile, and it just works extra hard. So when you clean the liver out and using those oils, that's why it's so important to drink the olive oil with the liver cleanse, because it works kind of like oil pulling. You know, Dr. Oz came out and everybody's on this bandwagon of doing oil pulling in their mouth with coconut oil. Well, that's old Ayurvedic, ancient Indian technologies of using oils, good oils, to coat the cell membranes, but also oils have an affinity for toxins and chemicals, and they suck them out. They pull them out. So during the liver cleanse on day 5, when you drink your olive oil, and that olive oil saturates into the liver, you're actually pulling all those chemicals and toxins out of the liver. And then some of them form little oil droplets, and it causes the liver to purge and to squeeze, almost like a oil filter in a car, which is so congested. You can still run oil through the filter, and it doesn't clean. But if you were to purge and squeeze that oil filter, then you would get all that toxic gunk out of there back into the intestines, and then you can eliminate it properly.
Well, it really is frustrating that so-called MD medicine just tells people if you've got a problem with your gallbladder or whatever, just take it out. Or if you've got, your liver losing function, they don't even tell you that the liver can regenerate. Well, when that's just mainline medical science, they just tell you get on the list for a transplant, get on the list to have it removed. It's just crazy that they don't tell anybody this, but I saw a British study just a couple days ago that if you quit drinking for a month, that most of the time a liver that's even 80% dead will regenerate. Now, that's medical doctors saying that in England. That's not me. I'm not a medical doctor. But I look at MD medicine in the U.S., and they just, I have a distant cousin, but I know him, and he's a computer programmer, worked for Microsoft, and he collapsed not knowing he had liver problems just from moderate drinking. And they told him, well, you got like 20% liver, fatty cirrhosis and problems. We're just going to get you on a list to get you a new liver. It may take 5 years for your liver to totally fail, but we think it will. And I talked to them. They didn't tell them about liver cleanses. They didn't tell them about, anything. They didn't discuss, hey, livers regenerate a lot of the time.
Right.
They just told them, get ready to get a new liver, because I guess that's how they make more money. Why is that, Dr. Group?
Well, that actually was part of our research, and it turns out that the two most important organ systems in the body, the intestinal tract, which is the largest endocrine gland, regenerates the top layer every 24 hours, and the liver regenerates itself every 3 months. So that just tells you how important those organ systems are, and that just goes to show you why they were developed in the body. Like for your bones, for example, they regenerate every 6 years, but the liver and the intestines are the main organs that are going to be exposed to all of the most damaging toxins and chemicals and everything we're exposed to. And so those are the ones that take the most damage. There's more than 900 prescription drugs out there that injure the intestines and the liver. There's 29 million Americans that are suffering from non-fatty liver disease. And the thing is, the problem is you really don't have a lot of symptoms. With your intestines, you might have bloating, gas, pains every now and then, some diarrhea, constipation, but it's really hard to diagnose liver problems. And those just creep up on you because slowly when the liver, and they know that they can damage the liver long term, and that's going to lead to all of the other degenerative illnesses. Because when the liver's filtering all those chemicals and toxins out of the blood and it becomes overwhelmed and fatty, guess what? 50, 60, 70% of those chemicals and toxins the liver's not able to filter and process.
So now it starts taking down all the other organs. I want to show, just in the last 5 months, working out less now because I've been so busy, but taking the supplements, the X2, doing the liver cleanse, the products at InfoWarsLife.com, I went from super jumbo fat, and that was us, Leanne, in England 3 years ago, 280 pounds, to now losing more than 60 pounds. Now, the images on screen are just me month to month over a 3-month period, and then that was just last week. So in 3 months, it's been that dramatic. And it's not saying I look great. I'm not Mr. Beachbody, but I have certainly lost over 60 pounds. And it took me years to lose just 20 or 30. And then now in the last year, I've lost more than I lost before that. And when I do finally focus now and work out moderately, the weight just pours off of me. I kind of take advantage of the supplements, though, and kind of have gotten lazy again. So it's been slower for me. What happened with your friend?
With her weight loss?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she's very experienced with this, so she just goes kind of gung-ho, and she slimmed down like flat as a pancake. She said that she weighs the least that she's weighed in over a decade.
And she's in a lot of pretty big B movies, also some A movies.
Yeah.
She's a pretty big actress, and she was already slimming down. She's a sports model as well, and she'd gained some weight. And she told me here, she said, this is the best cleanse, hands down, I've ever done.
Right. No, she loves it, and that's why she was so ready to do it again after she did it the first time. But, of course, you know, we had to wait for the product to come back in.
That's right. She'd done it once.
Right.
Told you should do it. This is your first time, though.
Correct. Yeah, and so she was just kind of helping me through it, giving me some good diet tips as far as some good healthy snacks to have. And
Leanne, I think green is your color.
Thank you. I like that shirt, too. But I still want to say that those were not my after photos. Just like I mentioned, those are my almost finished with the cleanse photo. So I'm actually thinner now because I actually have.
I can see it. Don't get too thin, though.
No, I don't want to lose any weight. It was just around the muscle
tiny little
area.
tummy.
You could see on the sides where I kind of had a little roll there up at the top, and it just flushed out. And that, I think. Well,
by the way, it's not the crew's fault. I came in today, did not do any preparation on this. Then the computers that had all the videos crashed. So I'm asking for these videos while the group's talking. They're scrambling, trying to resurrect them. So the crew's doing an exemplary job. We do need to get the latest photos. That was you in the middle of the cleanse,
right?
And you can see a big difference.
Well, that was because I had I switched the salts around. Maybe Dr. Group can talk about why it's important to do the Epsom versus like a Himalayan salt. So I switched the salts around so my body didn't properly flush. And so I ended up just getting really bloated and like OD'd on sodium. So that was a big mistake there. So I didn't even really want to take.
I was about to say, you've really lost weight now. It's like the week after the cleanse. What happened?
Yeah. Well, it's just because that particular day I was still really bloated from the sodium. And so the flush took a little bit longer. Dr. Group had to kind of walk me through some steps to.
Well, this is the last network break I'm going to skip for the next week. And it's an order to John Harmon. But I have to skip it because I want to air this 5-minute report with you and your friend doing the cleanse together. And you guys shot this at home yourselves. She came over to your house. Great job, Leanne, on top of hosting the news and hosting the radio and all the work you do. This is your idea. You did it.
Yep.
And the video is very popular with viewers and listeners. Next hour, Jim Mars is going to be in studio with us. We're going to cover a bunch of other news. We're going to come back after this video and get Dr. Gribb's take on other health news and where he sees the forced inoculation move going to forcibly inoculate us. But, Leanne, I tell you, it makes me want to really follow the cleanse like you guys did.
Yeah, I haven't even started drinking again because I stopped drinking, a couple days before the cleanse just to make it easier. And I haven't even, just knowing what was coming out with the toxins and everything and how great I felt during that time. I haven't even gone back to drinking or eating fatty foods because I want to keep feeling this good. So it is Halloween this weekend. So
well, your eyes are even more sparkly.
I know people have been saying my skin's glowing, so it was a real good time.
Did we ever cue up a Wonder Woman song for her? Oh my gosh, maybe later. We're gonna go out. You know what? Let's just play it right now before we play this piece because the entire world is waiting for her, and then we will go out of Wonder Woman and into the piece that Leanne and her friend put together on what happened. But just briefly. Because I don't like, obviously, with a guy even talking about this or on air talking about it, or with a girl that I work with, a lady talking about it, but without getting into details.
But please, go.
No, but I mean, did it work as advertised?
It worked, and I was really surprised, and
I didn't believe it. 2 years ago, they were pushing me. I'm like, yeah, right, develop this, I'm going to do it. And they go, no, nobody does this cleanse. This is going to be huge. It's going to help people, and it's going to be very successful.
Yeah.
And then I did it, and I was like, wow, I didn't know I was living in the movie Alien.
Yeah, it was, it was intense. It worked, but Not that bad.
Hold on, let's put her up on screen.
Wonder Woman.
This always makes me blush.
All the world is waiting for you.
As she battles radioactive waste dumps.
I know. Where's my nuclear wasteland? We have some. Oh my goodness.
Look at that. You stopped that car.
Can we do a remake with this?
I like your. Yeah, let's do it. I like your
Can we get the green screen? Oh my goodness. This is just the best news ever.
All right, there you go. Dr. Group, what do you think of the wondrous results that Wonder Woman has had?
I think she's awesome. I'm so proud of Leanne and Emmy. I mean, I was talking to her during the cleanse, and I'm just so proud of her. She's gung-ho. She did it, and she had great results. The only thing was she mixed up and used the Himalayan crystal salt, which is regular salt. The reason why we have the Epsom salts in there because they're a magnesium salt.
You got to be the medical grade at like CVS.
Yeah, and I guess, Dr. Group, you were saying that you know, the Himalayan, my body will actually absorb it and be like, that's great. With the other one, it will flush it out.
Yeah, the Himalayan crystal salt is just like regular, pure saltwater salt.
So you had the same results and you did Himalayan salt, not Epsom?
No, that was the problem, is that it did not flush me out. So I had to do another salt flush. It took like an entire extra day of suffering, and Dr. Group kind of talked me through it because the Epsom salt is.
See, this is so unscripted. I don't even know any of this.
Yeah, no, that was
of the suffering.
It was
this product's so good. The suffering.
No,
come suffer.
It was my own fault. I was
no, seriously, it's
lying in bed and like the room was going like this, and
I'm kind of a wimp. Drinking apple cider vinegar every day is suffering, even though it's really good for you. And just eating the oxy powdered tablets, it's not that big a deal. Because I did a cleanse before with herbs, made me totally sick and really hurt my guts. It didn't really work too well. So this is a great cleanse, but I guess there is some legitimate suffering involved.
Well, no, that's why I wanted to just stress to people, follow Dr. Group's instructions. You can find the Epsom salt at Whole Foods or some sort of a...
Yeah, and you got to buy the little gelatin tablets to put it in. Because I didn't follow his deal, and the next morning didn't have the effect. So I called him up with Anthony, and I said, listen, I'm not having green and black balls. Everybody else says they're getting them. There's something wrong with me. And he goes... Did you take the Epsom salts?
Oh, yeah.
And I went, no. And he goes, well, yeah. So then I took them that next day, and then that night it happened.
Right.
So.
And that was another thing Emmy wanted to point out to people. Some people say, oh, well, that's debunked. You know, it's just the olive oil flushing out, and those are the balls. She was having the globules come out before she even took the olive oil. So it was like with the Epsom salt flush, like because it, you know, loosened up the gallbladder and everything. And as soon as I took that olive oil...
Olive oil isn't making black, hard marbles?
Exactly. But there's a lot of people in the comments going, oh, no. And she didn't even take the olive oil, and it was already starting to happen.
Well, what do they have to lose? You're funding a hardcore operation, battling for freedom, battling for right to defend, sovereignty, and we only promote and sell what we've used, what we believe in, what's blown people away. Plus, that's free market. We want to have killer products. InfoWarsLife.com. Before I go to this video, support our local AM and FM affiliates. Buy their products, become sponsors, support their sponsors, buy billboards for them. The middle class and wealthy people have to get aggressive or we're going to lose everything. And working class folks that don't have an extra dollar, you can spread the word about these local AM and FM affiliates. Most talk show hosts plug every segment, different products. We don't do that. Once a week or so, we do 20, 30 minutes of infomercialing to fund the entire operation. And we obviously have some sponsorship as well, but we're about 80% self-funded. I want to thank all you, the viewers and listeners, for buying the products at InfoWarsLife.com. Let's go to this piece with Leanne and her friend and the dramatic results that they had. Here it is.
Hi, everybody. Well, myself and Emmy Robin are here. We're getting ready to do the Liver Shield Cleanse. Very excited. As you can see here, the night before the first day is all about prepping. Yes. So that is what we have going on here. And I felt pretty good rolling out of the grocery store looking like a health nut. Well, we're checking in for day 2 of the InfoWars Life Liver Shield Cleanse. I gotta say, crankier today than yesterday. Emmy to the rescue. Once again, she's brought me some delicious food to try to tame the beast.
She's been a real Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, but we're still hanging in there. Hope you guys are too. Be sure to check out the product, InfoWarsLife.com. It's the Liver Shield Cleanse along with the Oxy Powder. And you don't have to go all the way and take the Liver Cleanse Challenge, but I highly recommend it. And that's me, Evil Queen, on day 2. You can do it. I can do it. You can do it. Hi, guys. Here we are checking in day 3 of the InfoWars Life Liver Shield Cleanse. I gotta say, today I thought I was expecting it to be really intense and cranky and bad, but I feel pretty good.
Nice.
What about you?
I'm glad. I got a little dizzy today, I'm not gonna lie, and then the cravings have come on, like I said, on day 3. It's always towards the end of the day, of course, when I was driving over here.
Yes.
Hear a commercial for cake pops. I don't even eat cake, nor do I eat cake pops, but they sound delicious right now. So I might have to try one on Monday or Tuesday. But yeah, it's just, it's weird. Day 3, for some reason, no matter how many times I cleanse, and I've cleansed a lot, day 3, I always just get the strangest cravings. We're not using pharmaceutical drugs. We're not, you know, I've seen so many posts of people getting their gallbladders taken out, and people don't understand, like, it's not like your wisdom teeth. Like, your gallbladder is a huge horse organ along with your liver that cleanses your body, and you can't just take that out because it helps cleanse the body. So
Right.
Why not try a cleanse and get rid of the stuff in the gallbladder?
As promised, we are checking in for day 4 of the InfoWars Life Liver Shield Cleanse. I gotta say, Emmy, you were right. Day 4, I feel tremendous. Woke up this morning feeling really light, a lot of clarity, no hunger pains, and I actually felt like I was floating through the grocery store. Everyone was sort of looking at me like, oh, pardon me, oh, excuse me. And I wasn't in there cute or anything. Like, it just was like, I feel like I am glowing.
It's Wonder Woman.
And you're not even that hungry, right?
No, not at all. I didn't even want to eat today because I felt so good.
Yeah.
So obviously this cleanse for me has really showed me that it is all about retraining our brain. Like I said, how can you resist tyranny if you can't resist the taco stand?
Now, if you want to see our before and after photos, I think they said they've got them ready.
No!
Like I said, mine are before and almost after because I'm not done with my flush. But you can see those if you go to Infowars.com/show. Whoa, Emmy, flat as
and
a
I
pancake.
I promise you, I was not sticking out in that first picture. I just literally was relaxed. And even in the second picture, I was relaxed. But like, looking
You can
at
really-
it's crazy. I
Look
can
at
see
those
in my
cuts
back.
in your side.
No, I know. I can see the muscles in my stomach. It's nuts. And my legs, I feel like my legs look skinnier. I don't know. I started off at like for my height, I'm almost 5'9". So I started off at relatively healthy weight because I had done the liver cleanse in July, and then I went straight into working on a production for 3 months where I was working 18-hour days on my feet doing like 8 miles a day. So, I mean, I wasn't super out of shape, but when I started that first liver cleanse, I was pretty out of shape. So that before and
Yeah,
after.
you said you're actually at the lowest weight of your, well,
Pretty
in
much.
a decade, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm almost back to when I was a fitness model, which would
Do they have my before and almost afters, or are we going to hold those off? Oh, my goodness gracious.
Holy moly, look at you. Yeah, I can see it in your arms for sure, and your legs.
Well, where I really see it and where I really wanted it was in my sides. I guess you would call that the spare tire. And you can actually see where there's that little roll. Oh, my God, this is so embarrassing. There's that little roll kind of on the back fat. And you can see it's gone
Look
away.
at your chin. Look below your chin, though.
Oh, my gosh.
You see,
wow,
you lose a little bit in your face, too. That's where I saw it big time the first time around.
There you go, everyone. Before and afters. And like I said, mine is not even an after yet. I should probably take more pictures later when all the sodium has left my body. I wanted to let everybody know this cleanse is on sale right now. The Liver Shield is on sale. The pack itself is on sale with the Advanced Liver Cleanse pack with the Oxy Powder and the Liver Shield. The Oxy Powder itself is on sale. So go ahead to the InfoWars store and pick some up today. I'm telling you, this is powerful. I felt amazing this entire week. It was
we're gonna
not
put the
as
full
hard as I
report
thought that it was going to
up on Infowars.com and at InfoWarsLife.com. But Leanne wanted to add something. You said that you were just telling me you didn't lose any weight. You lost what?
I lost more than 2 inches around my waist. So luckily I did not lose my curves, but my stomach there where the bloat was with the toxins, more than 2 inches.
Well, that means your muscles got bigger if you stayed the same size, if you lost fat. That's amazing. We'll be back with final comments from Leanne, Dr. Group, then Jim Mars in studio, back into politics, back into news. But this is important. It's a win-win. Take care of your bodies. Support the broadcast. 40 minutes or so, I covered news the first 20. I've been getting into Liver Shield, InfoWars Life, how we fund ourselves here. We're not like NPR that takes taxpayer money and then begs for money every week. We just promote products that are high quality. Leanne McAdoo's here with us. Coming up, Jim Mars will be in studio to cover a bunch of world events, the political realignments, what's happening with the debt limit being raised basically to an unlimited level, and so much more. But in this last 5 minutes, shifting gears back into news, Dr. Group, just the state of the world, what do you make of Vladimir Putin coming out and saying carbon taxes, man-made climate change is a eugenics fraud meant to enslave humanity, and it is a weapon system against humans? What do you make of that type of game-changing statement? And then I want to get Leanne's take.
I think exactly that it's game-changing. I mean, I give him a round of applause. I mean, that alone is hopefully is going to wake up a lot of people. We need more world leaders coming forward and actually stepping up to the plate and not hiding behind their shells and not being in a fearful state that they can't say anything because they're scared that we're going to attack them or cut trade with them or something like that. So way to go, Putin, for doing that. I mean, that's great.
What else are you looking at right now? What else is front and center for you politically?
Well, politically right now, pretty much we're just trying to let people know that they need to take care of their children, especially over Halloween. Try to get their children to avoid all the high fructose corn syrup that they're going to be eating, which is mostly made from genetically modified beets. And letting everybody know that they need to continue to cleanse over the holidays, keep a good positive attitude, try not to stress out too much. So
that's what I'm trying to do.
We've really just been kind of focusing on the positive. And for some reason, a lot of people are just saying, what can we do, especially, you know, with HR 1599, the GMO, the DARK Act. We're trying to educate people about that right now. And we just had a lot of requests lately with people coming forward and saying, you know, what can we do to improve our lives and become more positive and become more healthy? So,
well, Dr. Group, I want to salute you for developing Liver Shield and Oxy Powder, 25% off for limited time at InfoWarsLife.com. Thank you so much for all your work, and I look forward to talking to you again soon, hopefully here in studio. But I know you couldn't drive up today because of the monsoons hitting Texas. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Global Healing Center head and founder, Dr. Group, one of the main developers of our product line at InfoWarsLife.com. And again, Leanne McAdoo, speaking of our product line, it helps fund sending you and Josh Owens for 4 days up to St. Louis, your own volunteering to cover the radioactive waste dump burning. You have a lot of courage, you and Josh do. I commend you. Tell us what's coming up in an hour and 25 minutes from now. You're going to co-host with Rob Dew the last 30 minutes or so today and get into what you witnessed when you were up there in St. Louis.
Right. Well, we're going to be speaking a lot more about the company Mallinckrodt, just a little bit more of their history. I've got some documents showing where they dumped barium in the street. Oh, half mile. Oh, my goodness. Just all sorts of...
That's the same stuff they put in the chemtrails.
Right. Exactly. It's just terrible stuff for you. And that going back to the whole global warming and all of this. So here we are at an EPA Superfund site. It leaks the leachate, 10,000, 11,000 gallons of this stuff. The neighbors, what the tests that they've done, it's probably benzene as well as a lot of other contaminants. So benzene, right, this is one of the main things that they're going to tax people who have fireplaces because of the benzene that comes, the carcinogen that's created with this. But they can dump 10,000 gallons of water that contains all this benzene that's flooding through the air.
So they can do millions of times what whole neighborhoods of fireplaces do. It's just shutting down people being independent.
It's ridiculous.
And then nuclear waste is okay.
Right.
Well, you're going to be breaking it down with Rob Dew in T-minus 55 minutes. Rob Dew takes over, and Leanne's going to be with him for part of that. Great job, but I'm not... You're getting a cream puff
no more radioactive
story after this. Well, at least the next one. We'll send you to Hawaii or something. Okay, Jim Mars, the man who first taught a university-level course on conspiracy, and the JFK assassination. #1 New York Times bestselling author. His book got turned into the movie JFK. Good friend of mine, fellow Texan. He's agreed once a month to make the trek down from his rural Casbah outside Fort Worth to be with us here in the Central Texas Command Center. And he is here with us today in the third hour. The fourth hour is coming up with Rob Dew, Leanne McAdoo, and more. And then I'll be back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m., Lord willing. We don't take it for granted. So much censorship now. But 4 to 6 p.m. with the live Sunday edition, and I'll be hosting this Sunday. By the way, at the bottom of the next hour, before Leanne comes in, they're going at warp speed to put together a piece of satire I shot last night at my parents' 4 acres here in Austin. I don't know why I mentioned that, but it's in the woods. They've got woods here in the middle of town where I go crazy with a chainsaw. And our enemies are going to really love this and go after us. They think being real and having fun discredits people. But the Republicans standing up to the attackers in the debate a few nights ago shows that's not the case. People want folks that tell it like it is and that have a good time. That's one problem I think Rand Paul has, and I love him and I like him. He is a genteel, nice guy. I've known him for 20 years. But he's gotten even worse in the Senate with all those old guys, and he just gets off on playing the part of a Kentucky gentleman. And it just comes off like drying paint. He needs to fire people up. When you're under attack in a foxhole or, at the Alamo, it's energy. We need Davy Crockett swinging a musket here and going in, lighting off the powder keg in the info war. We do not need, people being, calm and going quietly into the night. And I say that because I really love Rand Paul, and I bring that up. But I was asking Jim Mars, what do you want to cover first? There's so much, the debates, Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, Syria, world government being announced by the pontiff himself. And he said, I want to talk about Jade Helm. And I said, okay. And he goes, I want to talk about what it really happened when we were under Jade Helm. Now, we never said Jade Helm was coming martial law. We said it was more conditioning to train to have military on the streets because the government, in the Mastering the Human Domain, Jade Helm PowerPoint, said that was what it was about.
Right.
And it was practicing infiltrating special forces into towns. We knew about it because the military contacted Joe Biggs, and they were concerned. So they misrepresented and strawmanned. We can put up the Southern Poverty Law Center when the extreme becomes mainstreamed, margins of the mainstream, where they show a graphic of a black boot stepping on Texas. We can scroll down and show that. And then they imply that I was saying it was the end of the world. No, I said this whole larger process is part of this. They say Common Core isn't meant to dumb you down. They say there's no move to get our guns in the same report. They say there's no UN treaty for Agenda 21. Well, Vladimir Putin just came out and said Agenda 21 and the whole anthropogenic climate change movement is meant to bring in world government and a taxation system to be selectively enforced against individuals, companies, and Russia. And boy, is he dead on. A major game changer there. I keep using the word game changer. Didn't used to use it a lot, but we're having a lot of game changers. And Team Liberty, Team Awakening, is making some serious gains. Doesn't mean we're winning, in my view. But before we get into Jade Helm, what is your state of the world?
Well, wait just a second. I think maybe we are winning, okay? I'm sure you've talked about the tipping point, right?
If you think we are, I want to hear it. Please tell me.
I tend to think that we are either at or very close to the tipping point. The problem is that nobody knows it because everybody watches mainstream TV, conventional radio, and they never hear the viewpoints of their own.
We all feel alone, but we're not alone.
We're not.
In fact, you're one of the few people that is on a lot of national TV shows for 20 years. I know you get recognized a lot. Are you not getting recognized more? I know I am, and it's not like, hey, I get recognized. That's a bellwether. That's a gauge on the awakening level. I'm getting mobbed everywhere now.
Hey, when you get recognized standing at a urinal in a suburban movie house, you know you've made it, I guess,
They were recognizing something else from somewhere? I'm sorry.
No.
Seriously. No, I'm interrupting.
Jade,
take over. No. Go back to you saying we're winning. I tend to agree, but I don't want to just say that because people think I'm hyping it. I think the worm is turning. I think the tide's turning. Go ahead.
The worm is definitely turning, and like I said, I really think that we're very close to the tipping point, not only in this country but almost worldwide. People are fed up. They realize they're being manipulated. They realize there's something really bad going on. I mean, think about the United States of America, North America here. We still have plenty of resources. This is a wealthy country, okay? And we have a reasonably educated workforce that really wants to work. Why are we in such economic difficulties? And the answer is, folks, because somebody wants it that way, right?
And they admit it. They write white papers admitting they want us poor.
Exactly. Okay, so as more and more people wake up and say, I'm not going to bend to that. I'm not going to get on my knees and pay homage to this system of haves and have-nots. I think we're kind of at that tipping point, but it's not working because they control the mass media and the people out there, especially in places. Austin's a hotbed, New York, great. But what about everywhere else? They just don't hear their viewpoints or the truth and common sense being coming to them over.
They're not getting validation.
No validation.
And notice when you watch CNN or MSNBC, all they keep saying is, you have no validation. We're not coming for your guns. You have no validation. Obamacare's free. Don't listen to Alex Jones. He's a kook. Don't listen to Matt Drudge. This is who they're saying. They're lying to you, and you're a kook if you listen, trying to make them under peer pressure go, okay, I won't, because they're so scared. The system's scared. It wouldn't be saying that if it wasn't.
That's what I'm saying. They're on the ropes. They really are. But by the way, here's the big difference. I'm going to tell you this from me, Jim Mars, and then I'll see what Alex has to say. But don't trust me. Don't believe a word I say. Just listen to me and then go read, check for yourself.
Tell him right there, camera 4.
Just check. See,
you host the show. Zoom in on him right now.
See for yourself.
Garden Gnome takes over. Go ahead.
Obi-Wan can know nothing. Right here.
Obi-Wan know everything. I love that jacket. That is absolutely Mac Daddy.
Oh, well,
this guy used to party with Jack Ruby at the dollhouse, folks. He's been around the block. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. But hey, don't trust me, and I'm going to tell you, don't trust Alex. He'll have to speak for himself. Just listen to us, and then go check other sources, and then do a little research yourself. And if you find out that we're telling you the truth, then great. You know the same things we know, and you don't have to worry about whether you want to trust us or not.
What was the name of that topless bar you and Jack Ruby hung out at?
That was the Carousel Club.
That's right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
And it wasn't topless. This was pre-topless. In fact, this is interesting. The Colony Club and the Carousel Club, which is right next door to each other, downtown Dallas, back in the day, back in the 50s, early 60s, that was just the place to go. It was the only place, actually, that was still open after about 6 or 7 at night. And
that's the only reason you went there. It was open.
Oh, yeah. Well, it had great entertainment. No, seriously, they did. It was more like vaudeville, okay? They had a live band. They had an announcer. They would have ventriloquist acts. They had mind-reading acts. I don't know, all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, yes, in between the acts, then the strippers would come out. But they only got down to a bra and panties. You can see worse on primetime TV today.
You're not bad for doing that. We know you're red-blooded. You may not be a commie. No, seriously, brother, let's get into Jade Helm.
Okay, Jade Helm. So, all right, all this hoorah about Jade Helm, and of course they tried to tar and feather Alex, and I never heard Alex say anything other than, well, it's the same thing that Governor Abbott said in Texas, which is, I think we need to just keep an eye on this, right? What are they doing? Okay. I think they accomplished 2 things. When I say they, I'm talking about the New World Order boys, the Illuminati, the Committee of 300, whatever you want to call them.
The guys that are looking to put us over a barrel.
Exactly. The famous they. They put this Jade Helm thing in operation for 2 purposes. Number one, let me explain something to you, having served in military intelligence. One of the most critical things in a military operation is getting your equipment there, okay, the materials. Your soldiers, that's no problem. Soldiers can walk themselves onto planes and ships or trains. You can get them there. But the equipment, that is the real problem in any kind of logistical issue dealing with the military. So and especially if they can pre-position materials, okay? An example, the reason that Field Marshal Rommel in North Africa was able to just take the Afrika Korps and sweep across North Africa in a matter of weeks, okay, was because he had pre-positioned supplies, ammunition, food, and weaponry all along the way. So when he didn't overextend his supply lines, he'd get somewhere and they'd have all the stuff ready to go.
That's the Desert Fox.
That's the Desert Fox. Now, the way that relates to James Helm is we all remember the photos and the films and the cell camera videos and Alex talking about the movement of equipment across the country. Trains were photographed.
We know this was part of a larger deployment operation.
And they said so.
And they admit they're caching armored vehicles, tanks, weapons, food, everywhere.
Right. So now they've moved them in to positions all around the country. And then Jade Helm, on the other hand, also was a tactical exercise to see what the reaction would be from the American people as to if they wanted to impose martial law.
And they saw what it was. We got upset.
And since they had a fallback position, they said, "Oh well, it was just an exercise."
And that was the psyop loaded on top of the test, was then to demonize the enemy in a counter operation.
Well, and of course now they can turn around to all the people who were warning and caution about Jade Helm and say, "See,
stay there. Absolutely." Well, we're having some great discussions during the breaks, and I want to recap it all. You got cut off by the break. You were finishing up with Jade Helm, what its three-prong attack was. Then you were bringing up Vladimir Putin. Then you brought up Germany during the break. Jim Mars, best-selling author, is here with us in studio. Please continue, Jim.
Well, there's so much to talk about and so many places to go. I think the encouraging thing, and I think maybe the thing your listeners most want to hear is going back to where we're saying there is such dramatic changes taking place in the world today, and we don't always get the proper slant of it. And again, back to the point that we may even have enough people in this country today who are well-intentioned and have a foot in common sense and would like to get this country back on even keel. But the problem is there's no tipping point because they don't realize that there's other people who think like them, because you never hear these things in the conventional mass media. Only people like Alex and some others try to bring you the real news. For example, the whole thing going on in the Ukraine. A lot of people don't really understand that. It's, Russia's making a bad move, and because we're getting all this anti-Russian propaganda. But if you back off and look at it, essentially what happened would be like if we sent the CIA, the Russians, say, take their intelligence service and come over here to Texas and get a bunch of Texans riled up about let's secede from the Union. And I think we all know that's kind of actually happening anyway. And then Texas does say, we want to secede. And then the United States said, say, look, you can't do that. And they would come and try to stop us, right? Well, it's the same thing over there. We set up this separatist movement. We armed them. We egged them on. And now when Russia says, you've always been a part of Russia, you can't do this. Now, all of a sudden, we're turning them into the aggressors.
And the people that run our country are running hundreds of groups inside Russia trying to overthrow it. I mean, super aggressive.
Right.
So Russia's not starting the fight here. And now look at the immigrant waves and the open borders and what's happening to Europe. You made the comment during the break that, quote, Germany's being destroyed. I went horseback riding with some folks, and some of them were from Bavaria, Germany. They spoke really good English. And they were saying that Germany basically is gone already, and that the socialists are breaking its back on purpose.
Mm-hmm. And after they make it work there and in the rest of Europe, then they'll double down over here. Although they've made pretty good headway.
Why does the left love radical Islam so much?
No, the left loves socialism, okay, at which the radical form was communism, all right? But the reason that the New World Order wants to have socialism is because on any social program, okay, no matter how benevolent it is, to be truly effective, you've got to have central authority, okay, so that it all happens efficiently and effectively. And once you've got that central authority, then the rich 1%, they can buy it up and they can take over the world.
It's easy to take over a central system. I totally agree. And Carol quickly wrote a book about that, admitting it, Tragedy and Hope. Why are the socialists so allied with radical Islam? We were against the Iraq War. We were against all this. We're not anti-Islam ourselves. We know there's non-radical forms of it. Why is the West funding radical Islam and now shipping them into Europe?
Ab ordo chaos. Okay.
That's right, order out of chaos.
Order out of chaos. Okay. Well, before you can bring order out of chaos, first you have to create chaos. So they go into countries like the United States that at one point was pretty homogenous, even though it was a country of immigrants. People came from every country in the world, all over the world. They came here,
and they came together. They had some problems, but they didn't get stirred up against each other.
Well, what did they do first? They learned English.
Yeah, they wanted to be Americans.
And then they learned American history, and then they learned our laws and our Constitution, and then they would go and stand in long lines and take lessons. And
that's because we whooped the butt of the biggest empire. We had the lowest taxes. We weren't perfect, but you could be left alone. And whether it was people from Japan or Italy, they wanted to get out of the caste system where you couldn't move above your group you were born in. That's what America was about, was a level playing field.
Exactly. And we've probably never actually had that in reality, but we've come close, and at least we paid lip service to it.
And globalism is the opposite.
And so they came in, they had to break that up. They had to break it up, keep us conflicted and fighting with each other all the time so that they can advance their agendas, right?
Beautifully said. We're going to a long 18-minute segment coming up. You could always cover 1,000 things. I'm seeing Abdu wants you to co-host with him for 30 minutes the next hour before Leanne comes in. But what else do you want to cover? When we come back, like last time, I think I'm going to get my lunch out because I forgot to eat breakfast. I think I'm going to hit her and eat lunch and just give you the floor for about 15 minutes to host. What do you think?
Well, whatever you want to do, I would like to explain how that Russia, our supposedly this big aggressive force, actually voluntarily pulled their troops out of Eastern Europe.
Well, let's talk about how we broke the deal with Russia. Absolutely. And with the China situation, I think that's a little more ambiguous. And we'll talk about domestic issues where Jim Mars thinks things are going. The report from Mars, straight ahead. And we'll give you his website. Get ready for that. Well, ISIS says they're planning a mass casualty terror attacks in the UK or in Europe. No kidding. The West is bringing them in. We've got, after promising no boots on the ground in Syria, Obama deploys boots on the ground. He's broken all other promises. Why would he be any different? This is our future. Germany may soon have 8 million new radical Islamicists brought into the country. First it's 100,000, then 1 million, now 2 million, now 3 million. They're like, oh, 8 million. Radioactive materials confirmed in St. Louis groundwater. Leanne McAdoo reported from the ground. That report's up there. Also, the writer behind the Cuckold Fetish movie joked about turning Nickelodeon into the kink network. And then it turns out we've got Rob Dew coming in the next hour to show the images and talk about it for radio listeners. They're actually doing it to the kids. I mean, they're showing it, just bizarre behavior, subliminals, you name it. So they're hiring porn directors now to run Nickelodeon. And like Mars was saying in the break, we're libertarians. We're not saying what you do in your living room or your bedroom. This is our kids, though. This is perverted. This is trying to wreck their innocence. China warns U.S. against minor incidents that could spark war. That's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Spread those stories around. Now, coming up, we're going to break stuff down for about 10 minutes. You're going to be co-hosting 30 minutes the next hour with Rob Dew. Then Leanne McAdoo comes in. But in about 10 minutes, I'm going to air a piece. This is from the Associated Press. I'm not joking. In fact, I didn't have it in my stack. They're going to bring it back into me. Where the Department of Energy said, let's restrict pumpkins, let's destroy pumpkins, let's smash pumpkins, was a stunt they pulled because plants also put off carbon dioxide, not just oxygen. They're part of the carbon cycle. So now it's those nasty grass, nasty trees. So I did a little satire piece for Halloween with this where I go ahead and take what they're saying to the next level. So here's the headline, Washington Times, Energy Department smashes pumpkins for causing climate change. Don't comment yet. I want your comment before we play this piece. But Jim Mars, you wanted to talk about Putin and Russia before we get into other issues. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just simply wanting to point out that, I grew up most of my life being told the Russians were our enemies and they were trying to conquer the world, everything else. But, all you got to do is stop and look at it. After the collapse of communism, there were Russian troops in all of Eastern Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, all through there, Bulgaria. And the Russians said, okay, communism collapsed. You guys outspent us. Let's just call it quits and we'll just have peace. And if you will promise you will not enlarge and add to your NATO military bases.
Don't encroach on our borders.
Don't encroach on our borders. We will pull our troops out. And we said, okay, we made the agreement. And they nobody pushed the Russians out of Eastern Europe. They voluntarily left. Okay. And what have we done? Ringed Russia with NATO bases. Now we're even trying. There's a move,
and we're trying to reinstate basically liberal Soros-based Democratic Party communism inside Russia. I mean, it's so sick, and a weird Nazi collaborator like Soros is running around running all this, putting neo-Nazis in charge of Ukraine. I mean, we don't have a Russian problem. We have a communist problem, and that problem's back here in America now.
Well, it's not even Russia or communists or here in America.
Globalists.
It's back. It's the globalists. It's the globalists who founded communism. Okay. Woodrow Wilson once said that the bulk of the money that went to Russia during the revolution did not go to the White Russians or the Kerensky government. It went to the communists. We created the Bolsheviks in Russia. And then when they kind of got out of hand, they had to go and create National Socialism in Germany to try to put a stop to the spread of communism.
And by the way, in mainline history, when you read deeper, and you're a historian, you're taught at university level, they admit the West funded the Nazis to counter the communists.
Yeah. This is not some conspiracy theory. In fact, one of the largest contributors to Hitler in the 1930s was National City Bank here in the United States. That was.
By the way, you wrote a New York Times bestseller 2 years ago about this. Give them the name.
Oh, yeah, The Rise of the Fourth Reich.
Yes.
Yeah, read that. And you'll find that John J. McCloy was head of National City Bank in the 30s and the largest lender of money to Hitler and the Nazis. And then, ironically, at the end of the war, he was made the High Commissioner of Germany.
Oh.
And he passed all these Nazis over here into the United States, where his protege, Allen Dulles, was heading the CIA and whitewashed their pro-Nazi backgrounds. Changed them to, no, they were not Nazis. And this is where Operation Paperclip came in. And we got all these Nazi scientists and military strategists.
36,000.
Mind control experts. Okay. They all came over here and they were all rolled within our military industrial complex. And this gave rise to the military state, the empire that we have today. And in fact, I have determined that here back during the Bush administration, when they were talking about his neocons, the neoconservatives, that was just kind of a more modern, polite term for National Socialists, because that's what they were.
And what you just said is key. A bunch of the neocons were Jewish and had been Trotskyites, but at the University of Chicago, they followed one of the sheep-dipped Nazis who was the head of the program there, Strauss. And so they were actually communists that then adopted a fascist model, and they lobby for a fascist model.
Well, what they did was turn them from communist socialism to national socialism.
Yes.
Socialism.
Exactly, but with a fascist flavor.
Right. Well, the term fascist, let's look at the term fascism. Basically it means the combination of state and corporate power. But what's interesting, Alex, is that that term came from the World War II dictator Benito Mussolini and his black-shirted fascistas, okay? And that's where the term fascism came from. And Mussolini himself is quoted as saying, well, fascism, it may not be the correct term. The more correct term is corporatism, ruled by the corporations. And I submit to you, isn't that pretty much what we have today?
That's exactly what they have today. Socialism for us, milking the middle class, the elites tax exempt, offshore, with a fascist pyramid on top.
Right. And destroy the middle class so that you can pit the haves against the have-nots. And then while they're fighting each other, you control.
Speaking of divide and conquer that you just mentioned, what do you make of the Black Lives Matter groups and others and the feminists saying, ban the word father and mother, he, she, boy, girl, TOO is hateful to women, brown bags are hateful to black people, banning cowboys and geisha girls and Native American outfits on Halloween.
Wait, how about the Texas high school band that got in trouble because they sent a fruit basket of watermelons and pineapples and bananas and something to another school band, and they said that was being racial insensitive. What do you make of that?
And the school said, we've investigated, they didn't mean it racist, but it still is. I mean, what do you think you get in a fruit basket?
Well, maybe that's when you stand up to give your marriage vows. You can say, well, he says he loves you, but, you know, we know better.
But, I mean, Melissa Harris Perry said on Monday, did you see this on MSNBC? She said, saying someone's a hard worker is code for attacking black slaves. I mean, they're just taking the whole language and then saying it's racist.
This is PC on steroids.
By the way, let's play it because people won't believe it. Here's Melissa Harris Perry, the one that says her kids belong to the state. Here it is.
But let's be fair. If there's somebody who is a hard worker, when he goes to Washington, is Paul Ryan. Not only works with the Republicans, but Democrats. You know very well that I work on the immigration issue, trying to get Republicans to support immigration reform. Paul Ryan is somebody who has supported immigration reform, has worked with somebody like Luis Gutierrez. Luis Gutierrez is very respectful, speaks highly of Paul Ryan. This is somebody who's trying to govern.
Alfonso, I feel you, but I just want to pause on one thing, because I don't disagree with you that I actually think Mr. Ryan is a great choice for this role. But I want us to be super careful when we use the language hard worker, because, I mean, I actually keep an image of folks working in cotton fields on my office wall.
She just injects it randomly to create racism.
What hard work looks like. So I feel you that he's a hard worker. I do, but in the context of relative privilege. And I just want to point out,
look, this guy's done anything.
Balance and being a hard worker. The moms who don't
we're living in idiocracy.
I mean,
oh, we are. Well, but see, you know, she's making idiocracy. She knows what she's doing. This is textbook right there.
Right.
Well, you saw them. They legalized last year CIA propaganda. Now they admit they're, quote, locally manipulating our minds. Washington Post. CIA locally manipulating your mind. It's a good thing.
Well, wait a minute. It seems like I heard you say something like that years and years ago.
Well,
we've all been saying this, but we were just conspiracy theorists.
Well, I mean, Snowden comes out and says what you were saying 30 years ago, what I was saying 20 years ago, and he's a god.
Yeah.
We're still kooks. See, when you get there way before everybody else, you don't get the brass ring. Well, I guess we kind of did.
Well, I don't know about you, Alex, but I'm a hard worker. Okay. And I know I am, because when I was a kid, young man, I served in a whole variety of jobs, and more than once, my coworkers would say, Jimmy, slow down. You're making us look bad.
That used to happen to me. I worked on a golf course one summer, and they finally, at the end of the summer, they said, we're glad you're gone and going to college. This is right out of high school. They said, man, because they finally put me by myself. They go, fine, you want to rake 18 holes? Because they had two teams doing it. I was doing it so fast. They go, you do it so fast? They go, and actually it was a peach of a job. I was out by myself. I could slow down a little bit on the last 6. You get there at like 6 in the morning, and I would rake all 18 holes. And they had 4 people doing it before. They were mad at me because I was making them look. Next, they go, fine, go cut sod out of this area with all these fire ants. They were mad.
By yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's nothing more boring than just standing around. I mean, how fast your day go when you bust your butt? Do you know what? You're putting down black slaves saying you're a hard worker.
No, I always thought I was a hard worker.
You didn't know you were a racist for that?
I didn't know I was a racist. I didn't know it had anything to do with race. I mean, I've known lots of hard workers.
Well, it's just total mental illness. You know what? I got to go to this piece. I want to get your take on it. Jim Marrs is our guest. This is satire. I had a little bit of fun. I shot this in one take yesterday. The Department of Energy came out and said that they're smashing pumpkins in a stunt to show that pumpkins are bad and that Americans shouldn't have pumpkins for decorations or food for that matter because they put off carbon dioxide.
Did they bring in that band? Is back up, the Smashing Pumpkins.
I was about to say Billy Corrigan. I guess they're going to try to hire him. No, he's a patriot, so I guess they don't want him. But they're now usurping the word Smashing Pumpkins. Folks, I'm not joking. This is really happening. This story's not a joke either. Now wearing blackface, not wearing blackface is Halloween. North Carolina State worries you might be Hitler. Try to figure this out. But seriously, they mean it to be extreme to set the precedent that they control reality. And then we'll follow any crazy thing they say.
Against each other.
Yes, it just makes...
If it's easy, everybody kind of go, well, you know, no, this time they're really...
It makes all communication about fighting with each other.
Yeah.
Just total mind control. So Energy Department smashes pumpkins for climate change, and they go on to say that it's bad for the earth. So now plants themselves are bad. So we thought we'd take this to the next level, go to a grocery store, warn people. My cousin Buckley played a great Igor, and then he brings me the evil pumpkins to be executed. Here it is.
It's all true. The Energy Department, I have the documents here. The Energy Department says the pumpkins are causing climate change. We need to eradicate the world of these orange beasts. They're going to ruin us. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. Oh my God, look at these small ones. We can't let them mature. We have to get them now.
We need background checks on pumpkins.
The energy department says that pumpkins are evil and they're causing climate change, and we need to eradicate them from the world. We need to save the universe now. We need to get rid of all these evil pumpkins. They're going to destroy humanity for the future and forever and for your children. Destroy them. We're going to smash them into oblivion so they don't exist anymore. We'll get rid of them like the dodo bird.
There's a report out today where the EPA is smashing pumpkins in a new video advertisement saying plants are bad because they increase the carbon footprint. They are now smashing pumpkins, and they're coming out and saying that sunlight is bad for the earth.
I'm bringing these to Alex. He'll know what to do. He'll know what to do with them. I'll follow any order. Doesn't matter how insane. Master, I have the enemy. I have the enemy. Oh no, look at these evil pumpkins. They have come from beyond to ruin the biosphere.
Good, Green Police, good. You, working with the other politically correct people, banning the word mother and father, and banning Halloween costumes, have proven how liberal you are. Now, just relax for a moment. Don't assemble the enemy over there for execution. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not satire. The Energy Department and others have called for cutting down trees en masse, living trees, and smashing and destroying pumpkins and not letting people grow pumpkins because they put off carbon dioxide. So do your part. Anything carbon emitting, whether it's your French bulldog or your grandmother, follow the example and the orders of our loving saviors at the Department of Energy. Public education has trained you well. Look at you, a servile, mindless, unscientific idiot giving us total power over all human life, paying money directly to Al Gore, George Soros, and Barack Obama in the climate exchanges, as well as Lord Rothschild. My minion, you understand by training people that pumpkins should be destroyed, we're training them that you will be destroyed, you worthless crap. So, without further ado, I, the noble eugenicist, will take out the enemy of the people via crossbow. Eat this, Charlie Brown, in your Halloween party. The enemy will fall. It's really important to take out the adult carbon criminals and the adolescents. But it's the babies that can grow up and resist us. Just like at Planned Parenthood, they can also fetch a nice price for their parts. China, unfortunately, just shut down our one-child policy the day the Rockefellers set up. We're having some failures, but not for long, because our work is never done. Bring in that mama right now. Good. Yeah. There's always new enemies to fight. Carbon's everywhere on this planet. It's almost like we're carbon-based life forms. And just when they thought they were safe, I found another one. I mean, it's psychotic to say that pumpkins are evil and should be killed. This is total insanity, and that's why we're here exposing it at Infowars.com. That's right. You see how that French Bulldog is starving. My French Bulldog captain, he totally trusted me. My mother's like, don't get the chainsaw out with the dog. And I was just going to point out they'd like to actually execute the dog as well. It's a carbon-based life form, right, Jim?
That's right. That was pretty funny. I just hope you're not selling the parts, are you?
No. Only Planned Parenthood's allowed to break the law and sell baby parts. Actually, without a license, we can't sell pumpkin parts.
Okay.
That's why they're banning lemonade stands. You can't sell lemonade or have a farmer's market, and the Amish can't, but you can sell baby parts illegally.
Right.
We'll be right back with Jim Mars.
Have to get our priorities straight.
Exactly. By the way, I shot that last night as it was getting dark, and they edited it this morning. It had some audio issues, but great job putting it out so fast. We're going to up the audio quality, add a few things to it, and then re-upload that shocking video where man with chainsaw attacks climate terrorist. So that'll be a big story today for you to get out this weekend to people to illustrate the total absurdity of all this. We're not joking. This really happened. This really went on. So great job, Buckley, Rob Dew, and the other folks in the crew that helped do that. That's why Buckley's good on air. He's a funny guy. He can do a lot of different stuff.
Oh, I just can't wait until we have to have more background checks before we can buy pumpkins.
Well, exactly. But you said during the break, this is all about population control. That's your latest book.
Yeah.
Explain how cutting off the carbon is part of the population control.
Well, carbon started, that whole thing got started under when they were pushing global warming, which you don't hear about that much anymore because that showed that a lot of that was kind of sensationalism. But
yeah, now it's changed. I mean, there's always change.
Yeah, now it's climate change. But they did away with that Chicago carbon tax thing. That's what it's all going to be. They were going to tax everybody, and then a bunch of those big wealthy people put together this carbon tax exchange in Chicago, and they were going to, of course, skim off of all this carbon tax money coming in, but they couldn't quite make it work, and I think they finally had to shut that down.
Isn't that a devastating victory for humanity?
It is, actually. See, again, that's another sign that things are looking up. They weren't able to push that like they wanted to. And while we're at it, let me just quickly say something about climate change. Is there climate change? Yeah, of course there is. Always has been. But is it just us? Is it because we're driving SUVs and eating pumpkin pie? No. Because here's the thing, is that whatever's going on is solar system wide. The ice caps on Mars are diminishing, which means they're melting. The ice on some of Jupiter's moons is shown to be melting. We know that.
But I intellectually can't disagree with you, so I'm just going to call you racist.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I am.
I just won the debate.
Yeah.
I'm Melissa Harris Perry.
That's right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And how do I react to that?
You don't.
If I say no, then I'm a racist denier, right? And
that's right.
If I say I am, then I'm tarred and feathered and run out of town. This is all part of the plan, folks. Okay? Keep you off balance, keep you fighting with your neighbors, World War II, we were facing real enemies, and the President of the United States said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Let's band together and take action and clean up the mess, okay? And we did. My father, my uncles.
And now they tell us we got to be in debt and we're done. Because
they want us we got to be afraid every day. Terror alert, orange, watch out, blah, blah, blah. And then fight with each other, white, black, brown, yellow, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, homosexual, heterosexual.
You said driving down here that you just, my phone is off and it'll turn on with these alerts.
I had no idea it even did that. In fact, I have my new cell phone set to a very soft ring, which I don't give people my cell phone because I don't want to be messing with it. For one thing, when you hold that radio transmitter receiver up to your head for very long, it will scramble your brains.
Right? Why are you being racist against the microwaves?
Now I'm being racist against microwaves. That's right. Okay. And anyway, so I'm coming down here. I'm about to doze off, and I hear this what? And it's my phone, and it says, flash flood warning. Well,
But see, that sounds reasonable, but it sets the precedent for their communications. And now in New York, they have billboards saying, report illegal guns, and you get those messages on your phone. So now they're giving us anti-liberty messages on the phones.
Right. Well, right now, it's something we can talk about. And in some instances, like the smashing the pumpkins, it's almost humorous. But, as this trolls along, and people who are like 6 and 7 today, or maybe 12 or 13 and listening to you right now, or then, in a few more years, they're going to think this is normal.
That's it. They're being prepared. Exactly. It's not meant for us. It's targeting young people. 4th hour coming up. Back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. InfoWarsLife.com, folks. Check it out. As I prepare to hand the baton to Jim Mars, Leanne McAdoo, and Rob Dew, and here in the studio. Great job this week, crew. Everybody. Great job, listeners. Great job, affiliates. Great job, sponsors. We get up here and joke around about this sometimes. It's better than me yelling and screaming when I really get upset. It's the best of times, worst of times. Jim Mars is here. Jim, we're going to look at social engineering coming up with the kids. You're going to be breaking that down with Rob Dew. But in this short segment, I want to remind folks, jimmars.com, your latest book on population control. Folks out there may think they know everything from watching Endgame or doing your own research. You need to get this book. it supports the important work he's doing that reaches out to so many other people that aren't informed, or buy the book, read it, then give it to somebody. That's how we fund the Liberty Awakening culture, which you've been doing. So keep it up. That's how we're having all this success. Buy the products at InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. We got the non-GMO storable foods, 10% off and free shipping right now. The water filters, 10% off, free shipping. A lot of great specials end on Sunday after Samhain, All Hallows Eve, whatever name you want to give it, that's coming up. Jim Mars, other tidbits in the 3 minutes we have left before I get out of this command cockpit here.
Well, there's really no question, because they say it themselves that up at the upper levels, the globalists, you know, the royalty of Europe and Bill Gates, these folks, they talk about population, reducing the population. And the question is, they have the money. Are they actually doing something about it? And the answer is yes. In my book, Population Control, I detail the chemicals and the heavy metals and the aluminum and the other poisons that they're putting in our water, our food, our medicines, and, you know, right down the line. And this is not just happenstance. It's not just corporate laxity. This is a plan at the very top to reduce the world population.
Huge news just broke at drudgereport.com. I'm sure you'll cover it more. That debate, I meant to get into that with you. Debate fallout. Republicans drop NBC. They're not going to go to the NBC debate now. Shell-shocked CNBC staff long flight home after having people stand up to them. The mainstream media loves to bully, loves to lie. I'm not lionizing these candidates, but they're good guys compared to the mainstream media. This is one of those magic moments when the tide turns and people said, we're done with you and your hit pieces, and everybody booed them, and they're no longer the moral authority. They're no longer the bosses.
Well, and this means that, you know, we might have to watch out, because truth may break out.
Yeah, because if we don't put up with their bullying anymore, it's game over.
Well, I've already been telling everybody that will listen to me that what has in the past been referred to as the mainstream media is now the lamestream media, and it's people like you, Alex, and others that people are turning to.
People like you.
To find out.
We're just common sense folks that have goodwill towards others and who promote basic Americana ideas. We're not perfect.
And I don't know about you, but I have no agenda other than I want to know what the truth is. If the truth is the mafia is running the country, hey, okay, if everybody knows that and everybody accepts that, then okay, I guess I can't say anything. But see, we're being led and jerked around and manipulated by.
I'm tired of con games. If people get real answers, they're good moral people. We can fix things. Exactly. They keep us confused, and the fog's starting to lift, and the roaches better figure that out.
Well, the roaches are running for cover too, you know.
Well, they're trying desperate stuff like every word is racist, you know, but it's not going to work.
That's right. That's right. Well, what they're working up to, of course, is if you try to say something good about Christianity, or if you try to say something good about the Constitution, then you're obviously some kind of potential terrorist.
Exactly. Behind the scenes, it's all about the Christians and the patriots. And we don't mean the mainline establishment Christians. No. We're talking about them off air. Oh, my gosh. They're some of the worst people out there. But, you know, the actual ideas of Christ and the fact that Christians...
Well, let's even spread it on past Christianity to include Christianity, but let's just talk at people who are spiritual. Wouldn't you go for that?
Yeah, they want materialistic, mindless idiots.
Yes.
We're not saying material's bad. It's just not our God.
Right.
Like, we're not going to sell anybody out for material gain.
I haven't seen you turn down a good steak.
Absolutely. Well, that's gluttony and piggish behavior. Hey, coming up, you're going to be co-hosting with Rob Dew and Leanne McAdoo. The Lady in Green is coming up as well.
And it's that spooky music that means the holiday is upon us. It seems like we're getting ready for Halloween. I'm sitting here with Jim Mars. I'm Rob Dew. This is the 4th hour of Overdrive, and we were just discussing what to talk about. And did you actually watch the debates on Wednesday night?
I try not to.
Yeah, I suffered through
my head with those things.
We were here for 3 hours. Actually, I like putting on these productions, but that one was really painful to watch because it was just so obvious with the questions that they were asking. Cue up those questions, guys. I want to go to that in a second. But just the way they, were downplaying it was supposed to be about the economy. And yet there were maybe only two 2 or 3 questions about the economy. The rest was, you know, you're a comic book villain. What's your fantasy football roster look like? I mean, just total hogwash. And it really, it just goes to the heart of what the media is trying to do. But what I thought was the best part was when Ted Cruz stood up and said, this is why nobody trusts the mainstream media. And everybody in there, they only let 1,000 people in there, started cheering. They sounded like 10,000 people. And that's true. People understand what the mainstream media is doing at this point.
Exactly. And this is what I was talking with Alex about just a while back, which is that there are more people out there, I think, who are aware and are tired of the old mainstream media, the old tired mainstream ways of doing things. And I personally think we may even be close to the tipping point, but nobody knows it because the mainstream media won't address anything that they think about.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, guys, let's roll that clip, and then let's talk about some of these ridiculous questions that were asked, questions of no substance, and that's essentially what it was.
Their favorite thing is something along the lines of, have you stopped beating your wife?
Yeah, right, exactly. When did you stop taking hard drugs?
Yeah.
Go ahead, guys, let's roll it.
This is an American president. Just add
puppet.
Then
there
vote
it
and
is.
repeat
Yeah, guys, y'all can pull us out of there. That's another one of Darren McBreen's great little pieces he's made to add at the end of all these, especially with the presidential election. Well, it's over a year away still, but we're knee deep in the muck at this point.
God help us.
Exactly. We have to endure this.
If they're going at it like this now, just imagine what it's going to be like next year.
Well, I think this is one of the only things keeping the economy going is just all the bile they're shoveling at us through the TV, through the airwaves, through the print media. These debates are getting people, at least people are watching them, but I hope they're seeing are distilling what is really being told, which is nothing. That was a whole 2.5 hours of no substance.
Absolutely. Well, that seems to be the trend of the day. In fact, it seems like our whole economy is being held up by hot air.
Yeah, exactly. Now, here's another thing, so they're attacking the adults with these fake presidential debates and this whole fake, presidential reality show. Paul Watson put this out yesterday, and then he has an update today. Nickelodeon pushing interracial cuckold fetish onto children. And I couldn't believe this as I was reading this. Anthony showed me this, but there's a guy named Jonathan Butler who was a softcore porn director, and now he's one of the creators behind this series called Bella and the Bulldogs. And guys, if you could go down to the Nickelodeon's cuckold fetish sitcom for kids, this was somebody put this together, and this is in the article. It's so it shows Bella and the Bulldogs and what it is. It's a top-rated show. It's about a girl quarterback on a high school team. It's filled with themes and symbols drawn directly from the cuckold subculture, which is this. It's where, I guess, a cuckold is when you have your kind of weenie white husband wants to have his wife have sex with black men. I guess that's what the basic definition behind the cuckold is. So here you have this female quarterback of the high school football team, and there's the black guy who's like big and strong, and then the weenie white guy who really likes the girl, but he's always getting beat up. You can see him there. I guess he's having a football injury. Newt, a weak emasculated white boy. Newt has a crush on Bella, but Bella secretly admires Troy, and the fans are encouraged to root for their eventual pairing. Newt is regularly humiliated throughout the series while Troy reveals his dominance and collects girls' phone numbers. And then if you scroll down, it shows the symbolism between the keys. There's like keys, blindfolds, and bulls are the big things in this cuckold fantasy. So here they're illustrating some of those. And I guess there's one scene where Bella has 2 keys. One's a little bitty white key and one's a big black key. I mean, it's very overt what they're pushing on the young kids. And this group is asking hashtag cancel Bella. They want Nickelodeon to cancel this. And, that's not the only thing you see in, these movies. There's an update to this too. This guy Butler's there's a tweet, and it shows him standing in front. He changed the Nick logo. He's standing in front of this Photoshopped. I don't know if he Photoshopped this or just moved the letters around. And now it says kink instead of Nick. I mean, this guy's just throwing it out there, and he's one of the creators for the shows. And look out for new shows like SpongeBob, Latex Pants, Sub Boy, and Dom Dom. This is just, we don't need to be sexualizing our kids, because then when they get in the universities, here's the university tells students making kissing sounds is sexual harassment.
Right.
Yet they're pushing this.
I'm seeing the other headline over here that says a feminist wants to censor the word "to."
Exactly. T-O-O.
Because it's sexist. And I've been sitting here for about an hour now looking at that, trying to figure out how is "to" sexist.
T-O-O. I can't figure that out.
I haven't got
Watson talked about it a couple days ago. Well, what is going on? What are they? And there's overt symbolism in this.
Oh, absolutely.
Bella and the Bulldogs that's going out
and don't
there.
think this is all just stuff happened. So
yeah, it wasn't accidental.
No. This is not accidental. This is all part of the thing. It's like, for example, let me see if I can explain it this way. Not long back, I met a white guy who was a musician. He was good, and but I'd never heard of him. And he basically was lamenting the fact that he had gone to the big music industry people, trying to bring his music to them. And basically he was told, if you're not singing country western music, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Country and
apparently
western.
A white guy can only play country western music.
Right.
Okay. If he tries to do rap or metal or anything else, then see, he can't get there.
That reminds me of the Blues Brothers.
It is very, very controlled. Okay. And so they allow the softcore director to come in
and do a kids show.
Kids show.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because they know that however lightly or however heavily that they are going to just push these perversions out there and these deviant behaviors and everything else, which I'm not opposed to society evolving. We're all going to evolve. We're a whole lot better off than we were back during the Middle Ages, but number one, kids should be left alone. They should be able to be kids as long as they're able to.
And this goes back to the classroom where they're teaching all the different type of sexualities, all the different sex things you could do together. And it's that sexual education that gets the kids thinking about it. Boy, they're sitting there in class going, wow.
But they can't give them condoms or
exactly. And then they're going to sexual.
So here's where it is. Here's how it works. But
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
or if you do it, we're going to come after you or call you sexist or call you a rapist if you have sex with somebody.
Right.
And the girl feels bad about it the next day, then you're a rapist.
Yep.
But here's where there's a show called Lab Rats on Disney XD, which talks about these bionic superhumans. And it's these kids who've had bionic implants, which is training kids and now they're superheroes. It's training kids to get implants.
Yeah, exactly.
And people don't see it.
Sure.
So we're going to be back with more. Jim Mars coming up next segment. This is the Infowars.com Alex Jones Show, 4th hour of Overdrive. I'm Rob Dew hosting. Sitting next to me is Jim Mars.
We've come a long way since Superman.
Final segment with Jim Mars, jimmars.com. What's on your website today, Jim?
I slept and got up and I haven't really looked today. No, what you can get on my website is articles and pieces that you're not going to find on the mainstream media, and then some publicity about books that I have out, and then archives. You can go back. You can go all the way back, I think, to September the 11th, 2001.
That's when the internet first came online.
When
Doug Gore invented it.
And I first posted a message that said the attacks are terrible, but let's don't go off half-cocked. Let's stay calm, cool, and collected, and let's find out what really happened. And
we invaded 2 countries that didn't have anything to do with 9/11.
Exactly. And so I'm still waiting to find out exactly what happened.
Exactly. Hey, if you're going out there getting dressed up this weekend, don't dress up in this costume. Very offensive. School bans Hispanic students racist mariachi Halloween costume. School tells Hispanic student his costume is offensive to Hispanics.
Where do these idiots come from? I don't know.
Come on, Josh.
Hey, I've got a beautiful black ornate sombrero and a serape that I brought back from Mexico, and I wore that one time to kind of a costume party, and I did it because I thought I looked cool. I thought it looked really
you're holding
good.
a margarita.
I didn't think there was anything racist to it.
I own a
these idiots?
I own a guitarone, so I'm automatically racist. I love breakfast tacos. That makes me racist. We go to the same Mexican restaurant in our neighborhood probably 5 times a month. I guess that makes it. But don't use the word "to." Exactly. You were asking about that earlier. What in the heck is "to" so sexist about? Well, these are the words of Cameron Schaefer, a devout feminist. In my experience, I rarely hear "to" thrown around about men. This is what I'm imagining she sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
You hear someone say he's short, but you seldom hear too short. I hear women and men alike describe each day how a woman is too something. But what does that really mean when you call a woman too? I don't think they're saying they're calling the woman too. I think they're saying she's too short or too bossy. Or, I don't even know if I even have, who knows. But now it's all about the attack on the language. You can't use the word TOO because it's sexist. You can't be, he's a hard worker too. I've said 2 things racist and sexist right there. Ow. My God, Jim, where is it all going to go?
They're going to keep going, and pretty soon you're going to have to get out of bed and tape your mouth and just not say anything all day long, or you might accidentally offend somebody.
We're going to communicate in binary code until that becomes too
Whatever happened to the old line that I learned as a kid, which is sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Well, they don't want to teach kids that. They want kids to
that's right.
to be worried about words
and worried and
bowing down to the authority figures, and that's how it all goes.
You can't stand up and be an individual.
Here's a story I like. After promising no boots on the ground in Syria, Obama deploys boots on the ground. So now he's going to send in troops, or of course it's just special forces at first. And I imagine they're going to be coordinating arms drops.
On the ground.
Right. I imagine they're going to be coordinating arms deals with the moderate rebels.
Well,
who are really Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
Having looked very carefully at Obama ever since his election, even before his election in 2008, I can hardly think of anything that he ever said that turned out to be true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very hard to find.
He's gone back on everything he's ever said, so it's no big surprise.
I totally agree. And it's a whole administration full of criminals. They are jumping ship as quick as they can. You know, but,
let me interject here,
go
Bob.
ahead.
This is the whole thing, folks. When you go and try to talk to your friends and our neighbors and our relatives, okay, and they're going, oh, well, I don't want to talk politics, you know, then tell them this. Tell them, I don't want to talk politics either. Politics is when everybody wants to have a new highway, and then we argue about how we're going to pay for it. I want to talk about criminality. I want to talk about criminal acts that are resulting in people getting killed and dying. You know, can we talk about that?
I used to love when they would talk about people lying up on Congress about stuff, and they say, oh, he's just playing politics. No, he's lying. It's not politics. It's not politics. You know, what happened in Benghazi, that's not politics. That is allowing 4 people to be murdered so you could transfer arms to Turkey, which would then give them to ISIS.
Right.
That's what that's about.
And you had to make sure those people died so they wouldn't tell the public about that.
Dead men tell no tales. Exactly. You know, that's just an extension of the Clinton body count.
Which has gone beyond my capacity to count it at this point. It's the same thing with the SEAL team members that supposedly got Osama bin Laden, although people all the way up to Madeleine Albright, former Secretary of State, said that he died in 2001.
Benazir Bhutto said that?
So yeah.
The CIA reported in 2001 he was in a hospital.
I know. And then we're told this whole story about this great SEAL team raid and everything, and these guys probably actually didn't know anyway. They're just following orders. But then all of a sudden we'll never know because most of them get killed in a helicopter crash.
It will never know. And then the guy that they supposedly killed is holding the remote control in the wrong hand. I'm not sure if he was left-handed or right-handed, but he's got the remote in the wrong hand that they're saying that's the guy they killed. Anyway, thanks, Jim, for joining us. JimMars.com. Leanne McAdoo's coming in next. It's the 4th hour of Overdrive. I'm your host, Rob Dew. Thanks for watching. All right, here's our long segment of the 4th hour Overdrive. I'm Rob Dew, and sitting next to me, 2 inches slimmer in the waistline, is Leanne McAdoo. She went on the liver cleanse and finished it up earlier this week or last week. When did you finish it?
Monday.
Monday, yeah.
But technically Tuesday.
Was it some extra flushing?
I had to flush all that sodium out of my body, so.
I haven't done that yet. I've done several oxy powder things. Let me tell you about oxy powder real quick.
Oh, please.
I lost 12 pounds the first time I did oxy powder.
No, I remember.
It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I don't get super overweight, but there's some times when the beer gut gets a little beer.
Hey, 'tis the season for the oxy powder.
I tell you what, in fact, it was about this time last year that I did my first cleanse, and I went and told Alex, I said, 6 days, I lost 12 pounds.
Yeah.
We have to tell people about this. It's amazing stuff. And you did a little bit of the oxy powder, but mainly it was the liver shield, that whole cleanse that's up on the website. I think everything was there, right? You just followed the directions that are on the website.
Yes, followed the directions almost to the T, except for do not substitute the salt. Use the Epsom salt like Dr. Group says.
Okay.
You can do salt flushes with regular salt, but you have to do a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so the measurements will be completely off. The Epsom salt, just a little bit, and your body will purge it for sure.
It will react immediately.
It will not make you have a sodium OD for...
And then so you finish the cleanse, and then you fly up to St. Louis to run around
irradiate myself. I had
toxic waste dumps.
I depleted myself of that toxic layer that was actually protecting me.
And now it's back.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? You guys were breathing benzene, it seems like.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just horrible stuff. What's sad is there's people living around those areas
every single day that
every
they have
day.
to deal with that. And that's what's so awful about this. But you know what? Don't have pumpkins for the fall.
Right. That's what we need to worry about, pumpkins. And that's why we had to make that absurd video. I went out and shot that with Buckley. And then later that night, we met up with Alex. And just, you know, it's absurd. You have to combat absurdity with absurdity. And I love doing pieces like that, especially when they're really quick and just down and dirty and we get them done. We're actually fixing a couple things on it and then uploading it to YouTube. And it'll be up tonight. And please spread that video around with all your friends, and also spread this video around that we're going to go to now. It's talking about how Big Pharma has ties to this radioactive waste that's there in St. Louis. And this is, I think, one of the most powerful reports you've done, just in tying all these pieces together, you know, in a hotel in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And Josh did some great camera work getting in, zooming in on all the things. But we have legalized drug dealers here in this country, and they're allowed to bring in whatever they want. Who knows how much of that's escaping?
Right.
Who knows how much of that is getting out into the black market? You know?
Exactly. And how are they getting it in? Now, there's an article from the New York Times from 1988 where they're talking about how Coca-Cola obtains its coca. And this was around the time when people were saying, oh, my goodness, is there cocaine in Coca-Cola? So they did this investigation. And then here it talks.
That's what gave you the pickup.
Here, exactly.
That's how it worked.
And then so it talks about here how once they extract the cocaine from the coca leaves, Coca-Cola then sells it to Mallinckrodt Inc., a St. Louis pharmaceutical manufacturer that is the only company in the United States licensed to purify the product for medicinal use. So, and like I showed you in the video, the DEA, they give them the thumbs up. They're like, hey, guys, we need to import opium and poppy seeds and coca leaves.
I wonder where they're getting that opium from.
Yeah.
It's probably coming straight from Afghanistan.
Is the DEA help? I mean, are they flying it in there with our soldiers and bringing it into the big pharma? So if you get hooked on cocaine or heroin or, you know, some opium on the streets, then you're going to go to prison. But if you get hooked on big pharma's version of cocaine and heroin and opium that kills way more people,
They'll just give you. So let's go to that report now, and then we'll be back. And you have some more information to kind of tail in and book in that report with. So let's go to that report now.
Leanne McAdoo reporting for Infowars.com. Of course, we are here covering the state of emergency with the radioactive landfill in Westlake. And of course, no trip to St. Louis to cover that would be complete without looking a little deeper into the company that was largely responsible for dumping all of this nuclear waste secretly around St. Louis. That would be Mallinckrodt Chemical Works. Now, Mallinckrodt Chemical Works began processing uranium in 1942 for the first atomic bomb. Once they started running out of space at their facility, they started shipping these radioactive waste containers off-site throughout different parts of St. Louis. Here's an old picture. You can see these materials were stored in bulk on the ground, open to the elements, and they were unattended. And they left them right next to Coldwater Creek, which we have been interviewing a lot of people here who were actually poisoned by this nuclear radioactive material. Being in Coldwater Creek, of course, it would get into the floodplain, get into people's crops. This area here is now currently dealing with thorium being found in their backyard. So this is a huge issue. These people are still having to deal with this today. Now, Mallinckrodt, they got out of the atomic weapons business, and today they're actually Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals. And check out their website. I mean, hello. I don't really need to get into the details with that. But Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals is basically a world market leader in medicinal controlled substances. That's right. They are one of the largest importers of opium, coca leaves for cocaine, as well as poppy, raw opium, and some of the things that they manufacture: codeine, hydrocodone, morphine products, opium, oxycodone. So all the things that other controlled substances. And so they are making these products that you're hearing a lot about with drug overdoses and things like that. So, going from making nuclear weapons to other ticking time bombs that are affecting our present day society. Now, check this out. So you can go to the U.S. Department of Justice, into their Office of Diversion Control, and you can see where they have gone with the Drug Enforcement Administration to be known as importers of these controlled substances. So this was just May 2015 that they filed for that, and they filed for phenylacetone, coca leaves, raw opium,
and poppy straw concentrate. And so the summary is basically that the Drug Enforcement Agency grants Mallinckrodt registration as an importer of these controlled substances. And then, of course, you can take a look at the other page where they say it's a manufacturer's notice. So then they also have to go ahead and give them the thumbs up that, yes, they can use these controlled substances to create all of these controlled substances. So these are medicinal controlled. These are the ones that are given the thumbs up, even though they are made with the same drugs that we're apparently trying to stop with the drug war. So are they just working directly with the drug cartels to bring in the coca leaves and the raw opium over the border? Or is the DEA helping them ship it right in? Now, think about that. We already know that our soldiers are protecting the opium fields there in Afghanistan. And since we've been there protecting them, it's actually increased about 90+%. So it doesn't put two and two. And of course, Mallinckrodt isn't the only pharmaceutical company that is importing these drugs. They're just the world market leader. Now, it's the U.S. Department of Justice that's obviously making this huge push to ban guns and take guns away from everyone. But we'll look at 2013. So in 2013, they would say about 12,000 people were killed in gun violence in the United States, 30 people a day. So that's, about 12,000 people. We'll take a look at the overdose death rates from pharmaceutical drugs in 2013. 25,000 total from prescription drugs, male and female, 25,000 in 2013. If you're looking just at opioid pain relievers, which is what Mallinckrodt specializes in, 18,000, 16,000 here. So much, much more than gun violence. You can look at the fact of abuse here. 6.2 million Americans abuse prescription type drugs, non-medicinal purposes, more than cocaine, heroin, hallucinogens, and inhalants combined. These are obviously young people. There's an increase in young adults abusing these prescription pills. And then just looking in one metro area alone, more than half of the deaths involved these prescription opiates. So this is just one metro area that they're kind of collating this data from. So as you can see, drug overdoses and pharmaceutical drugs are always popping up in these mass shootings, right? But they never want to talk about the pharmaceuticals. They never want to point out how that is always one of the key indicators in these mass shootings. It's always the guns, when clearly prescription opioids are much more dangerous, killing many more people than guns here in America. That's what we need to be talking about. So that I thought was a really interesting, a little bit of information going back with Mallinckrodt Chemical Works, who is, largely responsible for contaminating the St. Louis area while they were secretly dumping off this nuclear material. And they're continuing to contaminate the population of the United States today. Stay tuned to Infowars.com for more reports.
There's nothing odd about pyramids and lizard-looking eyeballs at the Mallinckrodt website. Nothing odd about that at all.
What does that even have to do with their pharmaceuticals other than, it's going to tweak your, pupils and make them dilate?
It'll make you crazy.
And makes you crazy.
Who knows? So I tweeted this out yesterday, or this morning, actually. After watching your report, I created a little new Twitter account that's just throwing out historical stuff and kind of relating it to what's going on now. So on this day in history, if you guys want to hit my phone, Dwight Eisenhower formally approved expanding the country's nuclear arsenal, and which led into the Mallinckrodt, I guess, them getting those contracts to expand and then have these waste contracts. And so now, we have, and then I put your video on there, how that related to today with the drug trade and now the legal drug trade.
Right.
And then now we have people killing people with guns, but they don't ever tie it, the fact that it's people on pharmaceutical drugs killing people with guns. So
right, one of the main killers of people in the United States, but don't talk about it.
Exactly. Also, to note on this day in history, Juan Carlos became king of Spain, and he owns a lot of your toll roads here in the United States. So through Sintra. So that's another way that they control things is through these, giant conglomerates like Sintra go in. They take a road like what we have going on now, and on the west side of Austin, they're cutting it down to 1 and 2 lanes so they could build a toll road. So while they're building their little moneymaker, they're cutting off transportation access for people and causing a nuisance everywhere.
That's what they've done up 290 on the way to Houston. And
exactly.
It's a toll road for about 3 miles.
And it existed before that, and it was perfectly fine. So they go in and take your existing roads and turn them into toll roads, and it's just another way to tax you. People don't realize that.
Right.
So what else do you have to add on the heels of your report?
Well, another one of the main reasons why I was interested in going to St. Louis and just giving more history on Mallinckrodt, but I wasn't able to meet with some of the main sort of whistleblowers because they got gagged. But she did go ahead and send some of her documents. And so this is a woman who was trying to fight for these nuclear workers and their families to try to get them health care and take care of them, because Mallinckrodt basically just was doing all of these secret tests on them. They knew that they were being introduced to like uranium. They were being exposed to all of these toxicants. And so they were just measuring their blood toxicity, saying, oh, here's a B12 shot. But really it was something to measure their uranium in them, and then they would, asking,
because they're scientists and they're doing research.
Yeah, and they even
Very
actually did secret testing on them after they died, doing autopsies without the family's consent.
Of course.
They did a baby tooth study where they were saying, oh, we want to study the baby teeth with all these people's children. And actually what they were really trying to do was see what the toxicity level was in these people's
how
children.
far it traveled. So then they could use that information to create life extension technologies and help them in the event of a nuclear event.
Right.
The elites, but we would be left with nothing. We're just getting tested on. We're the guinea pigs.
Exactly. And they would test these people there with their in-house doctor. They would send them home every week. Hey, buddy, great job. Here's some cigarettes. Here's some beer. Enjoy the weekend, so that they wouldn't know why they were feeling sick. They wouldn't know where these toxicity levels were coming from. And it was like this mad doctor that was writing it down in his little notepad.
He's like the St. Louis Mingala.
Yeah. So she was able to find his actual notes in his own handwriting.
Who's the doctor? What's his name?
I believe it was
probably dead now.
Yeah, like Dr. Mancuso, I believe. He was kind of went on the run there for a while, and she got all these documents via a FOIA request. And just there, blatantly, she was like, wow, oh my goodness. They just knew that they were testing on these people, and then they would fire them right before when they realized their toxicity was getting to that point.
Right.
They would fire them, and then these people would just be out of a job. And that's exactly what happened with Scott Kahneman's grandfather, and he just was miserable and dying of all these different forms of cancer. And of course, now decades later, we're seeing that same sort of cancer cluster is now affecting a whole different generation of people that had nothing to do with Mallinckrodt.
But hey, we have chemotherapy. If they get cancer, we have lots of big pharma drugs that they can take, lots of regimens they can be put on. So we've already come up with a solution to the problem we've created.
It's probably why they switched from building nuclear weapons to going into pharmaceuticals, because they could see the promise. They're like, huh. Well, people are
going to catch wind of this nuclear stuff pretty soon. We better flip the script and start importing illegal drugs,
right?
And become the only legal importer of drugs, and then we can do whatever we want with them. God, it's a sick system,
right? It's completely sick, and that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to go and just point this out. Here's a company today. I mean, we're talking about this liver shield cleanse and how important it is to just clean out your gut, and that is the key for optimal health. Because otherwise, you're going to allow yourself to get so sick that you're going to be supporting this company, this type of company. And that's what they want. They want you to get so sick that you can go and continue on supporting these globalist countries with their all-seeing eyeball on their website.
I don't think people realize how much, and it's a slow, when you take something like oxy powder and you suddenly flush yourself out and you have all this energy, the first couple days, it's like, you're mad because the toxins are in your body and then they're flushed out. And you feel this energy that you don't get, just by drinking coffee or something.
Right.
It's like it's a body spirit energy it radiates internally. It's amazing what happens when you start cleansing your body. And I don't think people really understand that. If you've never cleansed, you should do something. You should try oxy powder, try the liver shield, even if you want to really get hardcore. And I mean, but you did it in 6 days, and it wasn't that big a deal. You have to just do it.
You have to just do it. It was definitely easier having a buddy to go along with, but it was not difficult. It's not like I was starving the entire
time. Get a cleansing buddy.
Yes.
And then put your results up on YouTube. Talk about it, because Big Pharma's not going to tell you need to cleanse your body. They're going to say, hey, you need to take more drugs that are going to pollute your body and drive down your energy levels. Then you're not going to want to do anything.
Right.
Oh, man.
And also, too, we all know about this assault and how the assault on the chemicals in our body and with everything, it fogs our mind. And that's all by design. So that is one of the main ways that you can fight the globalists. You can fight this machine is by cleansing your body, clearing your mind. retraining the way your brain thinks and not giving in to all those, oh, well, I guess I better go get some fried food because my body's telling me that's what I need. Your body's only telling you that because that's what it's used to receiving.
Right. And then you literally put on the sunglasses. Your eyeballs are able to like wipe clean.
Yes.
Squeegee the third eye, as Bill Hicks used to say.
Your clarity. You're clear.
And that's what it takes. It takes going into that mode, and then you start seeing things differently. You're like, wait a minute, I'm being bamboozled here.
Right.
I got to do something. I got to get mad. I got to start talking to people. I got to smash pumpkins for the government. Now, hopefully you will do that. But we'll be back one final segment. We're going to talk about what's coming up on the InfoWars Nightly News. You're watching the 4th hour of Overdrive with Rob Dew. Sitting next to me over here is Wonder Woman Leanne McAdoo. So we'll be back with more. Just stay tuned. So the fallout between police and average citizens, the war that is ramping up is intensifying. Here we have it's on the Drudge Report right now out of New York Daily News. 4 cops injured, 3 youths busted after brawl near Pennsylvania high school. It's a big brawl. I guess the cops tried to break it up. Students started attacking the cops because they have no respect for the police anymore because the police the police are acting like tyrants in some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases. And these are being put out on social media so much and promoted. We do that here. I think we have to show when cops are bad, and cops need to police themselves. When you got bad cops, you need to get them out of there and stop pretending like this stuff doesn't happen, because everybody makes mistakes. And we understand that. Get the bad cops, put them behind a desk. Don't let them go out there and interact with people.
Right. Well, and of course, this was all part of that plan, too, is to get the people versus the cops. And then the cops start saying, well, why am I going to protect you?
Yeah, I'm just going to sit in my car. Now they're saying they just sit in their cars because they're afraid of being photographed. Well, if you're doing your job the way you're supposed to be doing it, the way you've been trained properly, unless it's one of those shoot first trainings that we know go on out there.
You guys, right.
Totally ridiculous. Now, you were looking at one of these documents over the break, and why don't you read this to people? These are the kind of people that really care for you.
Okay, so this is a secret office memorandum from 1951. And it's kind of the report on the long-term Mallinckrodt employees. And they say, about a year ago, you asked if it would be possible for us to estimate our potential liability among the long-term Mallinckrodt employees. So they're basically wanting to know, what kind of trouble are we going to get in? So they discuss about that there were 17 employees whose lungs have had more than 1,000 RAM of exposure. They're talking about how their employees have really been facing an abnormal amount of exposure. So then they go on to say, it's recognized that pending the elimination of excessive exposures, here was a unique opportunity to conduct clinical studies on a fairly large size population whose radiation exposure for several years had been considerably in excess of any group for which data are available. So here they're like wringing their hands, and they're like,
we're not going to help these people. We're just going to study them, study how they die. Exactly.
And they go on to talk about how even after death, even their genetic abnormalities in their children, we can go on to study this. This is so great.
And there's probably some secret file out there in some backroom warehouse in St. Louis that's got all the information there. And it takes people filing FOIA requests and getting that information out and then blowing the whistle. I know you actually ran into some roadblocks of people who have gag orders on them, right? They can't even talk.
Right. Well, because I guess what happens, and I don't want to give it away the agencies, but a lot of times what happens is these people fight so hard through the legal system, through the court system.
They're drained from their bank accounts.
Exactly. But then what happens is these government agencies say, hey, why don't you come and be an ombudsman or something and make sure we're doing our job correctly. And so they sort of bring them in.
Sign this NDA.
And then they're no longer allowed to speak out against what's happening. So I understand it, but it's, I
mean, why is speaking out such a crime in this country? It seems like anytime you have information that would expose some wrongdoing somewhere, you'd think people want to hear about it, but it's only in certain cases. It's only when it's not government individuals or insider bankers or giant pharmaceutical companies making, horrible things like what you've been disclosing, plus vaccines. That we can't ever talk about. We can only talk about when it's individuals doing something against the state, not paying their taxes or not being supportive of the government. Tonight, you got the InfoWars Nightly News. You got a whole in-depth report that's about to be
right. There's going to be a very in-depth report. We're going to be speaking with a lot of the community members that have actually been poisoned by the creek where they illegally dumped open air, like 240,000 barrels of this toxic nuclear waste. And now, generations later, the people were just playing in the water there.
But just remember, it's all to keep America strong. Keep the homeland strong. That's it for today's show. Join Alex on Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. and then tonight.